Think back, there was a glint in his eyes as a result of the small amount of tears that had welled up there. It was a sign of emotion, of guilt, and of love. Which is why, Zhang Han went on, today, on your birthday, I'm going to sing a song just for you. When he stopped talking, Zhang Han reached out his hand towards a small table beside him. There was a microphone on the table, which he grabbed. Whoosh. The very instant Zhang Han picked up the microphone, something else happened. Bursts of light suddenly appeared all around them. It was an epic pyrotechnic display, made possible by the array of fireworks that had been arranged in a circle on the outer side of the candles. The fireworks were all attached to some kind of automatic rotating device, which were now spinning around and spewing sparks all over the place. The result was a beautiful sight to behold. Tu reached its end, and another melody sounded in the speakers. This time, it was the accompaniment of a song. The moment she heard it, Xian knew which song that was. Just loving you. I've always wanted to tell you, you've given me unimaginable happiness, like an oasis in a desert. Say that you'll be by my side forever. That you'll be my roots and my wings. You let me fly into the nest to return to. I am willing and able to give up everything for you without any regrets. Let us be together as we drift along the river of time. You must remember the way we love each other. Zhang Han's voice was deep and powerful, as the lyrics spilled from his lips. His emotion-filled eyes were trained on her. Just like that, he conveyed the voice of his heart through the song. Xian was already transfixed right then. She did not care one bit about Zhang Han's singing skills, nor did she care about the candles all around them or even the fireworks. Then and there, all she saw was Zhang Han. Zhang Han's singing voice gave the tears which had welled up in Xian's eyes the final push. Soundlessly, they slid down her pale cheeks. I just love you and keep loving you, through sorrow and joy. When I'm with you, even the mundane becomes meaningful. I just love you and keep loving you, through sweetness and peace. That kind of feeling is you. As the song played, Zhang Li, Zif, Zhao Feng and the others found themselves completely blown away by what they were seeing. They were all stunned, and quite literally struck dumb. For a long time, they were unable to recover themselves from the wave of emotions that had hit them like a ton of bricks. Even Meng was now staring at the scene wordlessly as if she finally had a little idea of what was going on. Wonderful! How absolutely wonderful! My brother has such nice singing voice, doesn't he? My brother finally created a family. Zhang Li said with red-rimmed eyes. She was so glad for her brother right now. Zif, too, was so touched that she was now in tears. Elder sister Yan is finally part of a happy family. This is just wonderful. It was safe to say that Zhang Li and Zif could really empathize with Zhang Han and Xian, which was why they had both been moved to tears by the moment. Zhang Li knew just how much his brother had suffered in the past 5 years, the same way Zif understood how her elder sister Yan had pushed through 5 years of hardship. Now, seeing both Zhang Han and Xian happy together, Zhang Li and Zif felt happy from the bottom of their hearts. A tiny smile tugged at the corners of Zhao Feng's lips as he gazed at the two figures in front of him. Perhaps the master and his wife could really love each other till the end of time, where the seas run dry and the lands crumble. Meanwhile, the other two women, Liana and Liu King, were practically swooning over the romantic setting before them. God, brother Zhang Han is so romantic, Liana whispered. Other than the few people in the group, more than 10 flying drones, quadcopters, really, hovered aloft the plaza. The drones were recording the entire scene on video from various angles. Then again, nobody really noticed the drone's presence. Zhang Han's romantic gesture was just too striking for anyone to notice other things. Of course, it was not just them who could see the entire scene. A number of residents in the apartment building opposite had witnessed the whole thing as well. If Zhao Feng and the rest turned their heads around, they would no doubt notice that a lot of people in the entire row of buildings opposite the plaza were now standing at their windows. Most of them had their phones out and were filming the romantic moment. Again, if Zhao Feng and the others turned their heads around, They would also see that a neat crowd had already formed on the opposite side of the street. If it were not for the fact that the area around the plaza had been cordoned off by the traffic police, there was an officer stationed along the street every 10 meters or so, as well as the yellow police tapes blocking off the streets, the crowd would have definitely rushed into the plaza just to get a closer look. Nevertheless, Zhao Feng was still able to hear the distant sounds of shrieks and cheers. Of course, other than the crowd on the street, Sun Dongying's gang could see seen as well. The 10 or so people who had crashed Sun Dongying's party were now standing on the chairs near the ledge of the villa's roof. Standing on tiptoes, they were all gawking at the scene happening not far away. Holy SHT, surely, that's going overboard. A love confession like this is so cool, right? Which girl could even resist something like this? Oh, how romantic. I'm so envious. Voices of wonder broke out among the partygoers at Sun Dongying's place as they marveled at what was going on. Sun Dongying stared at the scene for a while, and then his eyes brightened. He turned his head around to look at a chubby dude and said, "Hey, you have a pair of binoculars in your car, right? Go get it now. I want to check out the couple. Maybe it's a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Hurry up, move it." "But I'm not done looking yet," the chubby dude mumbled softly before running quickly to the car park. Oh, together as time continues to pass, please remember how much I love you. Oh, I just love you and keep loving you, never abandoning you, never leaving you, no matter how much storm and rain we're bound to face along the way. I just love you and keep loving you, placing all my dazzling happiness right in the palm of your hands. Oh, I just love you and keep loving you. Slowly, Zhang Han was nearing the end of the song. From the start till end, Xian just stared at Zhang Han with tears streaming down her cheeks. Her gaze, filled with profound emotions, was fixed upon Zhang Han the whole time. She knew she should be smiling right now considering how happy she was. Still, her tears would not stop flowing simply because this idiot had finally confessed his feelings to her and had done it in a way that would make her swoon, no less. She loved it. The whole Prince Charming confessing his love through a love song thing. Zhang Han began singing the final verse of the song. I just love you, and keep loving you. I want to be with you. I just love you, and keep loving you. I want us to be together. I just love you, and keep loving you. I want it all. Zhang Han's deep voice had brought out the deep emotions of the song and had made Xian experience the profound feelings of love that he harbored for her. When the song ended, Zhang Han stared at Xian who was standing in front of him. He knew he could pull the beautiful woman into his arms right about now. So he stretched out his arm invitingly and wrapped them around Xian's body, pulling her snug against his chest. Right then and there, Zhang Han could feel his pulse picking up pace slightly. At the same time, he felt a sense of peace washing over him, a feeling of warmth and contentment. Home. This felt like home, a home that was whole and complete. This was how a complete relationship should be. Zhang Han spoke into Xian's ears with trembling voice. Xian, I love you. Will you accept me and be with me? Let us make a complete family together. Let me protect you for the rest of your life. I'll make you the happiest woman in this world. I'll hold your hand and together, we will spread our wings and soar into the sky. I'll never abandon you, ever. This was the first time Zhang Han had ever felt like this. It was true that he had dated other women before, but he was now absolutely certain that Xian was the woman whom he would spend the rest of his life protecting. Xian's tears spilled down her cheeks in torrents. Inside Zhang Han's embrace, Xian fought against the lump in her throat and said, I promise to be with you. I love you, Zhang Han, I love you, too. Kaboom. It was like their two hearts had come together in this moment to form a whole. Once they were spoken, those words were like part of a vow. It marked a new beginning where Xian and Zhang Han belonged to each other. Glang. The microphone that Zhang Han had been holding in his right hand dropped to the ground noisily. Their embracing arms slackened and they pulled away slightly from each other. Zhang Han tilted his head back, creating a little bit of distance between their faces. His eyes found Xian's once more. The love contained in them was obvious to see. Xian had an inkling of what was about to happen. She stared into Zhang Han's eyes unblinkingly, even her tears had stopped flowing. Xian saw Zhang Han slowly reaching up with his right hand. Moments later, he was swiping away the tears at the corner of her eye. There was a smile on his face, one filled with warmth, adoration and tenderness. Slowly, he brought his face closer to hers. Xian's mind went blank as she stared vacuously at Zhang Han's approaching face. He got nearer, even nearer now. Finally, thus began the kiss that was a long time coming, one that carried the weight and promise of love. Xian felt her body shuddering the moment her thin lips touched Zhang Han's. Her eyes slowly widened. For a while, she stared tenderly at Zhang Han's face. Then, she slowly closed her eyes again. The kiss went on and Zhang Han's arms tightened around her, as if having a mind of their own. Xian's arms snaked around Zhang Han's neck. Like so, the two of them were locked in a tight embrace as the bliss of their shared kiss intoxicated them. Meanwhile, behind the kissing couple, Zhao Feng, Zhang Li and the rest were wearing smiles on their faces. Further behind, a chorus of cheers erupted among a number of people who were watching from afar. A lot of them were able to relate to such sentiments of love, and from the bottom of their hearts, they wished the greatest happiness for the couple standing inside the heart shape. About damn time, ha ha ha. Zif laughed. She felt the urge to open her arms wide and start spinning around. Still, that was not an option, considering the kid she was currently carrying in her arms. Speaking of the kid, how come she was so quiet? Lowering her head, Zif realized that Meng was gawking at the kissing couple, the ice cream in her tiny hand completely forgotten. Oh, hey, that's embarrassing. Meng shouldn't look, Zif said, covering Meng's eyes with her hand. The kid, on the other hand, had other ideas. She lifted her small palm and slapped Zif's hand away. A pout formed on Meng's lips and she pointed her finger at the kissing couple in front. Me too, she said in her childish voice. Apparently, the kid had come to the conclusion that something about that image was not quite right. There was Papa, and also Mama, but it was still missing another person, her. Well, luckily, the next stage of the plan would successfully divert Meng's attention. The long kiss had stopped Xian's tears. Streaks of crimson crept up her cheeks. The kiss only ended when Xian found herself near the point of suffocation. Their faces separated from each other. Once again, Zhang Han was gazing at Xian's face with a dopey smile on his face. Heck, he was pretty sure he was drooling at this point. Xian's beautiful eyes were sparkling, her gorgeous lips parted to reveal her perfect teeth. Idiot, she said in an affectionate tone. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han burst into laughter. Then, he wrapped his arms around Xian and began spinning her around in circles. Xian bent her legs at the knees slightly and clung on to Zhang Han with both arms wrapped around his neck. Just like that, Zhang Han spun her around in circles. After God knew how many rounds, Xian was starting to feel dizzy. Hey, I'm dizzy, put me down, Xian grumbled into Zhang Han's ear. Zhang Han stopped spinning and laughed. Dizzy already? He asked, staring at Xian's face. A little, Xian said with a light shake of her head. Don't pass out yet, Zhang Han said. Then, he flashed a cryptic smile at her. Show's not over. Xian's beautiful eyes gleamed slightly. She gazed at Zhang Han intently. What else do you have planned? She asked excitedly. Was the surprise still ongoing? Then, Xian saw Zhang Han raising his right hand slowly with his index finger pointing upwards. A split second later, she heard a cacophony of noises coming from the building in front. Right then, she saw that the lights, normal lights this time, of every room in the building as well as every house in the vicinity switching on, which made the area in the plaza slightly brighter. But that was just the beginning. Moments later, huge balloons were released from the ground surrounding the plaza. Countless balloons rose from the ground into the sky in a packed and uniform manner. The whole image looked like a vivid and lifelike piece of art. Xian was in for yet another surprise when the balloons climbed to about the 7th floor. Pop, 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 pop. All of a sudden, the legion of closely packed balloons burst. Ah! Xian suddenly screamed in shock. Never in a million years would she have thought that the insides of those balloons were filled with flower petals. When several hundreds of balloons burst simultaneously, the rose petals contained inside them got scattered into the air. Slowly, countless rose petals rained down from the sky. It was a shower of roses, literally. At the same time, the spotlights surrounding the plaza flicked on, beams of lights shone into the sky, illuminating the falling rose petals. It was like a scene straight out of a fairy tale. Any woman would feel delighted at such a sight. "Oh, how pretty, it's really beautiful," Xian said, staring at rose petals in the sky which were falling down like snowflakes. It was an enchanting sight to behold. Xian spread her arms open and began spinning around in front of Zhang Han, looking extremely joyful. Zhang Han found himself rooted to the same spot, watching her with tender eyes. Every pair of eyes that were watching the whole scene were now filled with awe. The residents of the apartment building opposite who had been watching everything from their windows had now begun shouting, "Holy SHT, seriously taking it this far? If this video goes viral, how is a love veteran like me ever going to survive in the sphere of love? All those love declaration schemes of mine are SHT compared to this. Woo. Putting flower petals inside balloons? DMN, just imagine the effort that must have taken. Who on earth is that bigwig down there? Humphrey. See, look at how romantic he is. Then take a look at yourself. Do you know what you did when you declared your love for me? You gave me a bouquet of flowers and that was it. Oh, come on, honey, you can watch but please take it with a grain of salt. Do you know how much all this will cost and how much planning and coordination is needed to pull this off? How can anyone even afford huge romantic gestures like this? For a small town guy like me, it's the sincerity that counts. Sincerity. Humphrey. Men, so typical. No matter what kind of debate the scene had incited, the undeniable fact was that it had shocked everyone to their cores. Then again, beautiful scenes like this only last for a short while. Very soon, the rose petal all fell to the ground. Although there were no longer any petals in the air, the entire plaza was now covered in a layer of roses. Xian took in the layer of rose petals that covered the ground. She looked at Zhang Han with joyful eyes and said, "They're really beautiful." Zhang Han smiled and said, "Do you like it?" "Oh, I love it, so much." Xian answered. Right now, she was just like a teenage girl, smiling innocently and with extreme joy. The smile remained on Zhang Han's face as he shook his head. "Ah, but the show's not over yet. There's more?" Xian asked incredulously. Right now, she felt as if she had just swallowed a whole tub of honey. Her insides were filled with sweetness. "There is," Zhang Han said, nodding his head. Then, he took 2 steps forward and reached out with his right arm to wrap it around her slender waist. That was, in fact, a cue for Instructor Liu. On the 8th floor, Instructor Liu's eyes went wide when he saw the cue. His face suddenly turned serious as he pressed a button on his walkie-talkie. Fire. Instructor Liu's loud yell sounded in the eerily quiet room. Beside him, Ahu and Elder Meng nearly jumped out of their skin. Holy mother of. Hey, Instructor, will you just chill? Goddamn it, you nearly gave me a FCKNG heart attack. Ahu said, patting his chest. The show began the moment Ahu finished speaking. Whoosh. A salvo rang out from all around the plaza. Following that was the ringing sound which typically accompanied the rising of a firework. Boom boom boom. Fireworks of various shapes and sizes lit up the night sky. Was this what the Chinese called the blooming of 100 flowers? In that moment, it would probably not be too far off to claim that this pyrotechnic display had illuminated the entire New Moon Bay. Ah! Xian released a soft scream, mouth agape, She stared stupidly at the exploding fireworks in the sky. After a while, she cast a sweet glance at Zhang Han before tilting her head sideways so that she could lean her head on Zhang Han's shoulder. Then, she kept watching the fireworks show, a show that was solely hers. Before the first round was over, another salvo sounded. Whoosh! A second round of fireworks rose into the sky just as the first round ended. The newly released fireworks picked up where their predecessors had left off and exploded in the sky. The whole show was like a roller coaster of excitement, peaking immediately when it reached its drop and vice versa. This time around, it was safe to say that the entire show had stunned and shocked a load of people. In that moment, the pedestrians all over New Moon Bay halted their steps to look up at the sky. Even those who were playing around in the plaza had temporarily abandoned the toys in their hands to turn their eyes skywards. On the streets, cars were pulling over to the roadside. Everyone, drivers and passengers alike, poked their heads out the car windows to look at the sky. In that moment, everything went into a standstill. Regardless of how busy people were, everyone stopped their activities just to watch and appreciate the ongoing fireworks show. A sense of peace washed over the entire New Moon Bay. However, as people continued to enjoy the show, doubt and confusion soon filled their hearts. Since when were fireworks allowed in New Moon Bay? What kind of situation is this? Aren't fireworks prohibited in this area? Not only in New Moon Bay, but even the people staying near the borders of Zhikeng district were starting to raise questions. Which VIP is having a celebration? To everyone, that was a no-brainer. All of them knew that anyone with the guts to put on a large-scale firework show in New Moon Bay must be someone with a lot of influence and power. At the same time, the 10 or so people in Sun Dongying's villa were also getting riled up. Fireworks, holy cow. What a high-end show. This is really pretty, so damn beautiful. Man, what a huge show this is. It's actually the first time I've ever seen something like this in New Moon Bay. How about it, brothers? Sun Dongying said as he recorded everything on his phone. Even he had felt a little bit shocked when he caught a glimpse of his screen just now. 3 million viewers? Never in a million years would he have thought that he would attract that many viewers in such a short amount of time. Seeing the steady climb of his viewership, Sun Dongying was so happy that he nearly started performing backflips in the air. This is my first time going live, and yet I somehow ran into this long and drawn-out show. It's rare to see a normal firework show in New Moon Bay, let alone something this big. I mean, having a large-scale firework show like this in New Moon Bay is really a first. Do you guys think that they made it so epic precisely because I'd gone live? Sun Dongying mused. Bullet screen? Quit being so shameless. Stop F around and watch the show. Yeah, fine, I'll stop talking now. Well, enjoyed the show everyone. I'll give out more ad envelopes later if I have a good time, but for now, let's just watch the fireworks. Come, give me the binoculars. Sun Dongying took the device from his friend. I want to see which VIP is putting on this show. Who knows, I might even know them. Sun Dongying stopped talking and held the binoculars to his eyes. Then, he began adjusting the binoculars' focal length, aiming the binoculars towards the plaza. He could vaguely make out 2 human figures. In fact, the 2 figures seemed very familiar to him. Huh? A loud thud shook Sun Dongying's heart. He quickly readjusted the angle of the binoculars and began glancing at the vicinity of the plaza. He thought he could see Zhao Feng and the others nearby, though he could not be sure. But when he saw the 2 dancing figures of Dai and Little Hai further behind, he froze instantly. He remembered the gorilla that Brother Feng had once told him about. This time around, the truth had surfaced. FCKNG hell! Sun Dongying yelled loudly, that looks like my boss. Hey, that's my boss. FCK. In an instant, Sun Dongying became riled up. His entire face was now red. My boss is awesome, awesome, awesome. This show is FCKNG awesome, just epic. Right now, Sun Donging looked like a deranged fanboy. His behavior made the 10 or so people in the villa abandon the fireworks show. All their eyes were now on him instead. Some of them had wary looks in their eyes, while others seemed surprised. Sun Donging released several belly laughs and glanced at screen. Like a hot-blooded teenager, he yelled, "Isn't my boss a total badass? Ha! He's a FCKNG badass, I'm telling you." Do you know how many years it has been since the last time there was a firework show around here? But now look at this grand show today. Now do you yield to me? Bullet screen. He's nuts. One of them has gone nuts. Yo, big brother, chill out. We yield. But then what does the show have to do with you? Ha ha, what's it got to do with me? He's my boss. Sun Donging laughed again. I told you guys ages ago. Now, do you see? My boss usually keeps a low profile. But if he really lets loose, epic things will happen. This whole show is my boss' idea of celebrating his wife's birthday. Cool, isn't it? Bullet screen. Yeah, it's cool, but again, what does that have to do with you? Sun Donging yelled, FCK my life for having friends like you guys. No more red envelopes, then. Bullet screen. Oh, sure, it's got everything to do with you. Your boss is a total badass. You know what? It sounded even more badass when you're the one saying it. Back to the plaza, behind the spot where Zhao Feng and the rest were standing. It was Dai's first experience with a firework show. Although it had seen it before in movies, seeing the real thing was a far better experience. Which would, of course, explain all that dancing and gambling. Then, it stretched out its 2 arms and began clapping to the fireworks rhythm. As Dai clapped along excitedly, it started laughing as well. Ha, ha, ha. Meanwhile, Little Hai was no longer its usual reticent self. It raised its snout into the air and released a long howl. Ow! It was like Little Hai was trying to match Dai's excitement. It almost seemed like the 2 high powers had good chemistry with each other. Chapter 302, The Blossoming of 100 Flowers. The fireworks show lasted for a good 10 minutes. This allowed a lot of people to enjoy the show to their heart's content. Of course, the happiest person of all was Xian. Moments after the fireworks show ended, Xian threw her arms around Zhang Han's neck. Her cheeks were practically glowing with joy and happiness as she beamed up at him. Still smiling, she asked, "Are there any more surprises?" Well, there's just one small gift left. Which is your birthday cake. Where is it? It's inside, Zhang Han said, pointing at the building. Hee, thank you, I'm so happy. Xian pressed her lips together in a smile. Then she raised herself on tiptoes and planted a kiss on Zhang Han's lips. What started as a light brush of lips soon escalated into something else. The moment their lips came in contact with each other, Zhang Han took advantage of their closeness and pulled Xian into his arms. After that, the kiss became a long and deep one. Xian blushed furiously. When the kiss ended, Xian glanced up shyly at Zhang Han. Something stirred inside Xian's eyes. Waves of emotions crashed and roiled as she conveyed the depths of her feelings through her eyes. Then, the spell was broken by the voice of a little girl. Hey, come on, walk faster, faster, come on, Papa, Papa, I want a kiss too, come here, Papa. Zif and the others approached the couple from their left side. Nestled in Zif's arms, Meng had long since begun kicking up a fuss, urging Zif impatiently to bring her closer to her parents. But as they were approaching, Zif saw that the couple was still engaged in a lip lock, so she tried to drag things out for another minute to buy more time. In the end, when she saw that the little girl in her arms was almost in tears, she picked up the pace and walked over towards the couple. PFFT. A laugh burst through Xian's lips the moment she heard Meng's voice. Staring up at Zhang Han with blinking eyes, she said, "Aren't you going to go pamper the little baby?" Xian glanced at Zhao Feng and the rest, who all had knowing smiles on their lips. Xian felt her cheeks warming as a blush slowly crept onto her face. This is so embarrassing. Zhang thought. Zhang Han nodded. Then, he took several strides towards Zif. When he saw the way Meng Meng was twisting her body around in Zif's embrace and desperately stretching out her tiny arms, Zhang Han could not help but laugh. In one swift motion, he took the little princess into his arms. "Papa, you ignored me for so long, I want a kiss," Meng Meng said with a pout. Zhang Han laughed. Okay, here's a kiss," he said before planting a kiss on Meng Meng's pink cheek. "Eh?" Meng Meng froze for several moments, then, in an upset tone, she said, "No, number. I want it right here." Meng Meng pointed at her small lips, on their lips. Hash. All right, Zhang Han said and brought his lips closer. Smooch. Meng Meng's pouty lips touched Zhang Han's briefly, only then did she feel contented. Ooh. Apparently, Dai was starting to get excited as well. It ran over and brought its thick lips closer to Zhang Han's face. Then, Dai's huge lips morphed into a pout as it squinted at Zhang Han. After that, Dai released 2 yelps, as if saying, "Master, kiss Dai too." The first reactions of Xian, Zif, Zhang Li and the others when they saw Dai's behavior was surprise. Moments later, they all began laughing their heads off. The corners of Zhang Han's lips twitched slightly. His eyes widened into a glare as he smacked Dai with his right hand. "You better go sit on the side and stay there," Zhang Han said in a tone of annoyance. Kissing both Xian and Meng Meng was enough. Now Dai wanted to join in the fun. No chance in hell. Ooh. Dai pouted and scratched its head. There was a look of hurt on its face. When Dai saw Zhao Feng laughing beside it, it glared at Zhao Feng. It stretched out its right hand and gave Zhao Feng a shove. Zhao Feng did the familiar stumble. Ow, what is it now? Zhang Han laughed and shook his head. Then, he carried Meng Meng towards Xian and reached for Xian's hand. "Let's head inside," Zhang Han said. "I'm guessing everyone's hungry, we can start dinner now." Zif, who was already famished, could not help but ask, "What kind of feast have you prepared for us tonight, brother-in-law?" Zhang Han smiled briefly. "Take a guess," he said without really answering the question. After that, he led the way and walked towards the lobby. Xian, who had been listening to the exchange, had a feeling that she knew what they would be having for dinner tonight. Her eyes shone in excitement. When Xian entered the lobby and took in the lobby's setup and layout, she beamed happily. She had been right all along. They were having hot pot tonight. Xian had once told Zhang Han that she enjoyed hot pot very much. The fact that he had prepared hot pot for tonight showed that he cared about her a lot. "I'm so happy," she thought as a surge of warmth filled her heart. The group walked further into the lobby. Some changes had been made to the lobby's lighting. The usual lamps, which produced warm orange light, had all been replaced with bright spotlights. Dozens of people emerged from the 2 corridors beside the lobby with Ah Hu and the others in the lead. All of them were singing as they ran over, "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. We wish you a happy birthday, Mrs. Boss." The dozens of people all yelled in simultaneously, "Congratulations, Boss, for getting the girl. Congratulations, Boss and Mrs. Boss, for tying the knot." Thank you," Xian said with a smile. "You've all worked hard today, thank you, guys." Zhang Han had rarely spoken words of gratitude to anyone. Even so, Zhang Han felt compelled to give these people a heartfelt thank you. Ah Hu and the others felt immensely honored, and not to mention surprised, at Zhang Han's expression of gratitude. One after another, they all began waving their hands at Zhang Han as if they all felt unworthy of Zhang Han's gratitude. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed and said, "Relax, everyone, be at ease, and sit anywhere you like." Zhao Feng waved at the crowd and said, "Take your seats, everyone, eat and drink to your heart's content. The boss is happy today, so you guys can have as much fun as you wish. You don't have to hold anything back." After that, everyone found a table and took their seats. 10 tables had been set up in the lobby. The tables were arranged in 2 rows with 5 tables in each row. A large hot pot was placed in the center of each table. Around the hot pot, a myriad of raw ingredients filled up the space of the table. Zhang Han, Zhao Feng and the others had yet to sit down. Zhang Han gave Zhao Feng a look and said, "Bring out the cake." "Roger that," Zhao Feng said with a nod before he strode away. "Eh?" Meng Meng froze the moment she heard Zhao Feng's mention of a cake. After that, her huge eyes gleamed in delight. She stared up at Zhang Han. "Cake? Is it a birthday cake?" she asked in a tone of glee and surprise. "Yeah, that's right." Raising her small arms above her head, Meng Meng let out a chorus of cheers and squeaks. "Wow, how nice. I want to have cake. I want to have a birthday cake. Ahem." Xian cleared her throat and said, "You can only have one piece, okay?" That remark brought an abrupt stop to Meng Meng's cheering. "Eh?" Meng Meng said, pouting her lips and blinking her huge eyes. "Oh, just one piece, but that's too little." Meng Meng thought for a moment, then, "I want a piece this." Meng Meng drew a circle the size of a football with her finger. "Big. Hash." "Oh, no, that won't do. If you have too much cake." Xian was just about to deny Meng Meng her cake when she saw Zhang Han shaking his head and smiling back at her. "Hash, it's all right. Meng Meng can have more," Zhang Han said. "I made the cake myself and the ingredients I used are all from the mountain. I put less sugar in it and it's also quite nutritious. Don't worry, okay?" "Really?" Meng Meng asked. "Yes, really." Meng Meng was instantly enraptured. "Yes, yes. Meng Meng wants birthday cake. Meng Meng loves birthday cakes." After that, Xian no longer tried to deny Meng Meng the cake. Instead, she shot a look of disapproval at Zhang Han. "You only know how to spoil Meng Meng rotten," she said in an accusatory tone. "Ha ha, not exactly," Zhang Han said, bringing his face closer to Xian. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I used a lot of fruits and vegetables to make the cake. It's very nutritious, and I didn't use a lot of cream." Based on Meng Meng's usual appetite, even if she eats the cake until she's full, it would be able to cover her nutritional needs. It basically counts as a full meal. Humphrey. Xian released a little snort and glanced sideways towards the corridor. "I haven't even seen the cake yet," she mumbled. Not only Xian, but Zhif, Zhang Li, Luo King and Liana's eyes were all glancing in the same direction. Considering all the grand gestures they had witnessed thus far as well as Zhang Han's natural disposition, they were half expecting the cake to be capable of spewing sparks and fireworks. Hash. Under everyone's gaze, Zhao Feng slowly pushed out a trolley which held the cake. The cake was obscured by a large cake box, so nobody could see what the cake actually looked like just yet. Soon, Zhao Feng stopped the trolley in front of Xian. Zhang Li and the others quickly crowded around Xian. They were all eagerly awaiting the moment the box was opened. Meng Meng raised a palm in the air. In her sweet, childish voice, she voiced out what everyone was thinking right then. "Cake time, cake time. Open it, hurry up and open it. Ooh, 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 ow, ooh, ooh." Behind them, the two high powers were pretty fired up as well. Zhao Feng smiled at Zhang Han and said, "Boss, will you do the honors?" Zhang Han nodded. "Okay." Carrying Meng Meng with his left arm, Zhang Han placed his right palm on the top portion of the cake box. Zhang Han raised his hand, and the cake box rose with spiritual force. By right, this whole scene should have seemed a little weird, but the weirdness that Zif and the others felt only lasted for a split second, because their attention was now drawn to the cake which was slowly being revealed underneath the rising cake box. Hash. Xian's eyes widened as the box rose higher and higher. Finally, when the cake box was fully opened, she released a scream of surprise. "Ah, FCK, you are so smooth, brother-in-law. Bro, since when did you have a talent like this? So pretty, you did a fantastic job. This is like a work of art, my god." There are even footprints. Wow, this sculpture looks too real. The women's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets the moment they saw the cake. They had seen this kind of cake before, but none of what they had seen in the past could hold a candle to the one sitting in front of them right now. Eh? Meng, however, was momentarily stunned. Pouting her lips in confusion, she said, "Isn't this Mike Sanadu, Papa, Mama and Meng are all in it, Big Hi, Little Hi, Darjan, Little Ha and the others. They're all there." From behind, Dai poked out its head. When Dai saw the cake, the gears inside its head began turning. Ooh, 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 ooh. The gorilla yelled. "Eh, isn't that me on the cake?" Many people in the crowd were amazed since it was their first time seeing a touched look on a gorilla's face. Meng, do you know what these words mean?" Zhang Han asked, pointing at the words in front of the cake. Meng perused the words, then, she pouted and said, "I don't recognize these words." Zhang Han whispered to her, "It's okay, I'll teach you. Come, say it with me, happy birthday, darling Yan. Happy birthday, darling Yan." Meng repeated the words, then, she grinned, "Happy birthday, darling Yan, happy birthday, Mama." Meng broke into a giggling fit. "Time to eat cake. Eating is all you know," Xian said, pulling her bottom lip between her teeth. Then, she glanced at Zhang Han, her eyes filling with happiness. One after another, his surprises kept coming. She wondered just how long it had taken him to prepare for today. Judging from the cake's refined and sophisticated design, she had no doubt that it had taken him a long time. All of a sudden, something occurred to Xian. She remembered that one morning where Zhang Han was nowhere to be found when she woke up. She remembered seeing the neatly made bed in Zhang Han's bedroom. She also remembered the words he had told her that morning. Now she knew the truth. He had been out all night to prepare the cake. Feelings of warmth coiled inside Xian's heart as she indulged her recollections further. Xian gazed at Zhang Han happily. "He loves me very much, and I love him very much too." Meng was starting to feel impatient again. "I want cake, Papa, I want cake." All right, hold on for a bit longer, okay? You have to wait until your mother blows out the candles and makes her wish." Zhang Han reached out and scratched Meng's tiny face. Then he placed 27 candles onto the cake and lit them up. At the same time, Instructor Liu was busy gesturing with his hand to give his signal. Moments later, the spotlights in the lobby were shut off. Now, the only source of light in the lobby came from the area where the cake was set up. The candles glowed weakly in the dark, their flickering light illuminating the space surrounding the cake. Zhang Han gave Xian a small smile. "Make a wish," he said. Xian said, nodding obediently. She pressed her lips together and raised her hands to chest level before clasping them together. Her eyes fluttered close and she began making her wish. "Thank you, God, for bringing him into my life. I'm very happy, and I hope our family will be a happy one, also, me, Zhang Han and also Meng." In that moment, under the warm glow of candlelight and with her eyes closed, all eyes were cast upon Xian's delicate countenance like moths drawn to a flame. She was absolutely gorgeous, the truth of that was beyond a shadow of a doubt. For a moment there, Zhang Han found himself utterly bewitched as he gazed tenderly at her. Roughly 30 seconds later, Xian slowly opened her eyes. She gazed at Zhang Han with a smile of contentment. "I've made my wish." Following her words, she lowered her head and drew in a deep breath. Whoosh! The lobby once again plunged into darkness when the candles were blown out. A moment later, the spotlights in the lobby were switched back on. Zhang Han smiled. "All right, time to cut the cake." Meng released yet another cheer. "Cake time." Zhang Li shared a look with Zif. "I want this piece." Zhang Li said, "I'll take this. And this one." "Eh?" Meng stared at the two women in confusion. "No, no, no." Meng said anxiously, "You can't eat Meng. No way. You can't have Big Hi either, not the dogs, no way. Zhang Li could barely contain her laughter. Then what are we even allowed to eat? Eh? Eat that little pig, eat those. Meng said with a straight face. In the end, the cake was cut up into a lot of pieces. After that, all the wooden carvings were removed from the cake and stowed away, much to Meng's relief. Meng ended up with the largest piece of cake plus another extra piece which was smaller. Now, Meng sat at the table, happily digging into her cakes. Let's see here, one little piggy per mouthful. Meng mumbled to herself. One little duckling per mouthful and one goose per mouthful, eh? Isn't this biscuit? Yucks, don't want to eat that, Humphrey. I want cream. Safe to say that Meng was having a lot of fun with the cake. Meanwhile, the others had all started the hot pot. The atmosphere was very lively. Happy birthday, elder sister Yan. Happy birthday, sister-in-law, Mrs. Boss. Happy birthday. A chorus of wishes sounded at Xian's table as Zif, Zhang Li and all the others seated at the same table raised their glasses simultaneously. Zhang Han raised his own glass and uttered only two simple words, Happy birthday. All his feelings had already been conveyed during his heartfelt love confession just now, if nothing else. The look in his eyes right now said it all. Xian raised her own glass and smiled at everyone. Thank you, thank you. Another chorus of wishes came from the other tables behind theirs. Happy birthday, Mrs. Boss. The wishes came from Ahu, Xiong, Instructor Liu and the others, all of whom had their glass raised in the air. Something else was worth mentioning as well. The red wine in everyone's glasses right then were the same ones that Liu Qingfeng had brought over earlier. They had only opened 6 bottles. Even so, the total amount that those 6 bottles were worth was. Yeah? Other alcohols being served were beer and white wine. Ahu and his gang still preferred their usual style, slugging down beer with their sleeves rolled up. Others, those with more refined dispositions, preferred white wine instead. Something even more interesting was happening at one table in particular, namely, the table which had been taken up completely by Dai and Little Hai. Right now, the two animals were shouting at the top of their lungs. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai lifted its wine glass, a pout forming on its lips as if it were trying to say something. If it were, figuring out the message it was trying to convey would be a no-brainer. Obviously, this knucklehead was trying to give a birthday wish. Little Hai was anatomically incapable of raising a glass for a toast. There was a huge bowl in front of Little Hai, which Dai had poured some wine into just now. When Dai was pouring the wine just now, Dai had thumped its chest like a boss and screamed at Little Hai a few times, "Brother, let's drink to our heart's content tonight." Having noticed that everyone was expressing their well wishes to Xian, Little Hai glanced in Xian's direction and raised its head. Ooh, ooh. Zhang Han stood up with his glass in hand. He glanced around at everyone and smiled. Thank you all such much for today. Now, I'd like to propose a toast. Zhang Han raised his glass. Here's to Xian. Zhang Han's clear voice rang out. Happy birthday. A chorus of hollers sounded from everywhere. Happy birthday, Mrs. Boss, elder sister Yan / sister-in-law / mama / you. After that, everyone emptied the contents of their glasses down their throats. Xian's beautiful and radiant eyes were fixed on Zhang Han, her heart swelling with happiness. To her, Zhang Han was the closest thing to a perfect man. He was multi-talented, had a good personality, filial, and calm in the face of trouble or distress. Even when dealing with a crisis, he would never waver or panic. He made her feel safe. There were times where he seemed like a very laid-back person. Other times, he was open and frank. Also, he could be gentle as well. By the time she realized it, Xian was already drunk in every facet of his existence. If she really had to pick a flaw, then she supposed there was one she could think of. the tendency to pamper Meng Meng. It made Xian a little happy that he was openly affectionate with her daughter, but at the same time, it also made her feel a little bit worried. She feared that Meng Meng might grow up to become a spoiled child. For years, Xian had drilled certain details and habits into Meng Meng, but now, many of them had been torn apart by Zhang Han's endless coddling. After the toast, fire and liveliness filled the atmosphere in the lobby. After finishing a glass, everyone started cheering. Woohoo! Even Leng Yi, who was usually cold and aloof, was smiling and cheering with everyone else. Leng Yi admired her boss very, very much. His actions today had proved to her that he was a man who had grit and bones of steel, but who also had a soft, sentimental side. Who said that men who were strong and successful must be alpha, macho males. Who said that men like this had to buy the hearts of beautiful women with money. In Leng Yi's eyes, the most successful and brilliant man was someone like her boss. Her boss' character and appeal incited feelings of great admiration in her and deserved her cheer. Prompted by what everyone was doing, Dai raised its glass too. Dai drained its glass in a single gulp. Little Hai poked out its tongue and licked its own plate clean. With the conclusion of the toast, the party spirit inside everyone shot through the roof. Zhang Li watched her own brother with eyes full of admiration. Bro, I really never expected you to be so cool. You're so damn cool. Love you to death, bro. Meng Meng abandoned her cake the moment she heard Zhang Li's statement. Eh? The kid raised her head. Who is that, who mentioned loving Papa to death again? She thought. For several seconds, Meng Meng just stared at Zhang Li. Then, she released a soft hum and mumbled something inaudible. Meng Meng lowered her head and went back to her cake. Zhang Li raised her glass once more and smiled at Xian, sister-in-law. Zhang Li said, now you're officially my sister-in-law. I wish that the love between you and my brother will last forever. May you stay with each other till you're both old and grey. Thank you, Xian said. Then, she raised her wine glass shyly at Zhang Li for a toast. The two women each took a small sip from their glasses. Zif took a huge mouthful of wine. Elder sister Yan, I'm truly happy for you, she said, her eyes turning red-rimmed. I'm so happy that you and brother-in-law finally belong to each other. Now it was Liana's turn. Bother Zhang Han, sister Xian, congratulations. May your future life be blessed with happiness and joy. Among all the wishes the couple had received, it was Zhang Li and Zif's wish who had moved them the most, so much so that they were almost in tears. They had to go through a lot of hardship and suffering to have this happy day. Happiness did not come easy. After 2 glasses of wine, the hot pot feast began. The tantalizing aroma of fresh meat and vegetables was paradise to the taste buds. Half an hour passed by very quickly. Half full, everyone settled into comfortable conversations. Ding! Xian's phone rang. She pulled out her phone and glanced at the screen. Almost immediately, her lips pressed into a tight line. She looked at Zhang Han and said, "It's my dad. Where's the bathroom? I'm going to wash my hands and then take the call." "It's in the middle of the corridor on the right," Zhao Feng answered. Xian stood up and glanced in the direction of the corridor. Her eyes sought out Zhang Han again. Zhang Han smiled and stood up as well. "I'll go with you," he said, stepping beside Xian. The pair walked towards the corridor. Along the way, Xian answered her phone. "Hey, Dad. Xiaoyan, do you know what day today is?" "What day?" Xian answered cheekily. "It's your birthday, of course, Xiaoyan. Happy birthday." He. "I know, I'm celebrating it with a lot of people this year." "Is that so? It's too bad that your mom and I can't be there to spend your birthday with you. You have to take care of yourself over there, you hear me? Just come home if you can't manage. You're not exactly young. Anyway, it's time you find yourself a boyfriend." The clan kept mentioning about setting up an arranged marriage for you. "I don't want any arranged marriages or whatever. I want to find my own happiness." "Arg, Xiaoyan, you know how the people in the clan are." Before Xian's father could finish, he was interrupted by the accusatory voice of a woman. Hey, why are you talking about that on her birthday? Give me the phone, I want to speak to my daughter. Following that, Xian heard the voice of her mother through the speaker. Xuanhuan, happy birthday, okay, let's not talk about those depressing things. Today is supposed to be your happy day. So, how have you been over there? Xian began to chat with her mother. Her parents had very little power within the clan, so they did not have much say in anything. Xian knew very well that her father had told her those things just now because the elders in the clan had brought up the subject of her marriage. No doubt their plan was to marry her off to some young master from another powerful family so that the marriage would benefit the clan. Still, Xian would never agree to it. The reason she left in the first place was precisely to avoid having her life unreasonably micromanaged by her clan. Her actions had angered a lot of elders back then. Even so, Xian did not care. This was one of the woes of being born in a powerful clan. Some people might be accustomed to it and accept it as being an inevitable part of their lives while others might rebel against it. In the end, it all depended on the worldview of those involved. Xian and her mother chatted for a while longer. Xian shared a closer bond with her mother. As the conversation went on, Xian turned her head and sneaked a glance at Zhang Han. She bit down on her bottom lip. Her pulse started to race. Mom, well, there's something I have to tell you. What is it? Oh, come on, just spit it out, will you? Why are you even stammering when it's just me you're talking to? Xian was so nervous that she felt as if her heart was about to leap up to her throat. I already have one. Have one? Xian's mother repeated. All of a sudden, Xian heard a yell from her father. What do you mean, have what? You mean you have a boyfriend? Xuanhuan, hurry up and tell us, what is it that you have? Xian's mother asked frantically. Xian felt herself becoming lightheaded. Her anxiety had made her palms sweaty and clammy. Chapter 303, Another Side of Zhang Han. Zhang Han released a light chuckle and shook his head at Xian. He knew that Xian was far from ready to have that conversation. Her father's call had come way too suddenly. In that case, it would be better for them to table this discussion for some other time in the future. The sight of Xian panicking transformed Zhang Han into a warm and soft-hearted family man. Once again, he shook his head at Xian caringly. Xian pulled her bottom lip between her teeth. I was just saying that I have a good job. I signed with a good company, it's a 3-year contract, Xian said into the phone. So, yeah, I guess I'm saying that life over here has been pretty good. So, you guys don't have to worry about me. As the phone conversation went on, Xian and Zhang Han stopped in front of the washroom's door. Xian shot a glance at Zhang Han and then raised herself on tiptoes to kiss his cheek. After that, she walked into the washroom while keeping the phone conversation going. Zhang Han leaned against the wall beside the door and watched Xian quietly. The phone conversation went on for 5 minutes. After bidding her parents goodbye and ending the call, Xian walked back towards Zhang Han. She stopped beside him and lifted her chin slightly. She pressed her red lips together and began to speak in an apologetic tone. I'm sore. Zhang Han pressed his index finger to Xian's lips, stopping her words. He smiled gently at her. You don't have to apologize. In fact, don't ever apologize to me again. You're my wife. Whatever it is that you do from now on, I'll understand, and I'll support you. Liquid warmth poured into Xian's heart in torrents. Right now, as she gazed at Zhang Han stupidly, she felt as if her heart were melting into a puddle of goo. Her legs moved on their own and she was once again on tiptoes. Her lips brushed across Zhang Han's lips in a gentle kiss. Zhang Han had other ideas. He wrapped both arms around Xian's slender waist and pulled her tightly to him. A long, passionate kiss ensued. Xian said when the kiss ended. A rosy tint colored Xian's cheeks as she leaned into Zhang Han's embrace. There was a yearning look on her face when she spoke next. I'm still worried. I'm worried that my parents would come and take me away if I tell them. You only just confessed your love to me, and we only just got together. I'm scared. I'm not brave enough to tell them," she grumbled. Her voice sounded so fragile and delicate right then that he thought it might actually break. "I understand," Zhang Han said. He raised his right hand and ran his fingers gently through her hair. "Don't worry, okay? No one can take you away from me. I'll make sure of that. But they're like tyrants," Xian said, pouting like a child. Then, she dropped her head onto Zhang Han's shoulder. "I was born in the Zi clan of Singapore. Zi clan is a business clan that had over centuries of history," Xian said slowly. "From what I heard, the Zi clan originated from the Hua nation back in the olden days, but due to various disputes among the prominent clans back then, my ancestors left the nation. At the time, Singapore had only become a country for several years. My ancestors traveled to Singapore and decided to establish themselves there. Even now, my clan still possessed a deep-rooted influence on Singaporean politics. I suppose you could say that my entire clan is filled with the aristocratic vibe. Do you know that I wasn't even allowed to date back then? Yeah, my clan forbade me from dating because of my good looks. They thought my good looks would be an asset to secure arranged marriages in the future. But after that, I insisted on leaving. I rebelled against my clan, and it wasn't pretty. We nearly severed ties. From what I heard, the elders had nearly announced to kick my family out of the clan. After that, it was my grandfather who had managed to calm things down. I was still with Royal Entertainment Company at the time, and my clan planned to send someone to drag me back. But that plan didn't work out because I was still under contract with the company and the penalty for a breach of contract was too costly. Besides, one of the members of the clan's council stepped in and intervened on my behalf. It's also possible that my young age had given my clan the incentive to bully me around back then. When my popularity rose, my relationship with the clan took a better turn. They did order me to return a few times, but I ignored them. Even so, they didn't take any extreme measures to force me back. You have to know that they value benefit and self-interest above anything else. They thought they could use my increasing popularity to the clan's advantage. It's also possible that they think my status as a superstar might increase their chances of securing a good marriage for me. Anyway, the point is that there isn't much familial bond within my clan. If they find out about us, Xian trailed off, fear and worry filling her eyes. Xian had given Zhang Han a rundown of her clan's history. Although things were going fine right now, but if she really told her parents, and if they were to have an official wedding ceremony, all kinds of problems would ensue. Her family knew that. Would her parents even agree? Ha ha ha, Zhang Han laughed blandly. He had kept very quiet and listened to Xian's account from start to end. Gently, he placed a hand on Xian's shoulder. Then, he pushed her slightly so that her head was no longer leaning against his shoulder. He shifted their positions so that they were staring into each other's eyes. In that moment, Zhang Han's expression was calm. Something shifted in his aura right then and there. One moment, he was all caring and tender, and then the next, he had this otherworldly and spiritual air about him. It was like he had just transformed into some kind of deity. Just like that, waves upon waves of transcendental aura radiated from him, assaulting Xian's senses. Then, a tiny, slighting smile formed on the corner of Zhang Han's lips. Other than the warmth and tenderness in his eyes as he gazed at Xian's face, his entire aura and presence had changed. Right now, he was like an emperor who ruled over the entire world. This was the first time that Xian had seen this side of Zhang Han, which was why her eyes had glazed over slightly. In her heart, she felt only one thing: Zhang Han's presence was growing larger and larger. All these feelings made Xian associate Zhang Han with a powerful general back in ancient wartime. His grit and tenderness had utterly bewitched her, so much so that she felt as if she was intoxicated. Just like that, Zhang Han held Xian's gaze. When he finally spoke after a moment, he did it in an indifferent tone. "It's just a clan. Trust me, no one will be able to snatch you away from me, even if there are hundreds, thousands, or even millions of clans like yours who are trying to take you away from me, it's still not possible. One day, you and I will soar into the heavens, hand in hand, we will spread our wings and fly, and it won't be just a dream. The extreme indifference carried in his tone really allowed Xian to feel the disdain and scorn that Zhang Han had towards prominent clans. Xian said, nodding her head obediently. To normal ears, Zhang Han's words might be regarded as one of the many delusions of an idiot, or even just empty talk. However, to Xian, his words contained a truth that she had deep faith in. Had Zif been there to witness the exchange, she would undoubtedly say, "Oh boy, she's nuts, she has truly gone nuts." How could elder sister Yan believe him when all brother-in-law did was make a mockery of everything? Could it be that a woman's IQ would drop so rapidly when she's in love? Then again, anyone who was not aware of the true depths of Zhang Han's hidden knowledge would never believe his words. To an ordinary person, cultivation was a word associated with the absurd. However, the truth was standing right before Xian's eyes. As an expert in the tribulation-overcoming stage who had once shifted mountains and parted oceans with a mere wave of his hand, Zhang Han's temperament was far from ordinary. How could such a man yield to the rules of the last Dharma age? The cultivation world had always been about the survival of the fittest. The strong shall feed on the flesh of the weak. That was an immutable law of the cultivation world. It was a world in which the weak practically led an ant-like existence. Obviously, if Zhang Han were to be reborn into a world without Meng Meng and Xian, this would be a different story altogether. Even if he did not leave a bloodbath or massacre behind, at least half of the world's authorities would be terribly afflicted by his presence. That said, there was a fundamental tenet of the world that should never be doubted. Beneath the feet of every great emperor, the road to his throne would always be paved with countless corpses and dry bones. If they were to see things from God's point of view, if they could foresee the future, then the members of a lot of prominent clans would feel thankful to Xian, because Xian and Meng Meng had mellowed Zhang Han's heart to the point that he was entertaining ideas of living quietly and peacefully for the rest of his life. Right now, that was exactly Zhang Han's attitude towards life. He would stay away from any form of dispute and just lead a quiet existence. But of course, if he saw people he liked, he would take them under his wing. After all, if a man attained enlightenment, everything associated with him, friends or pets, would rise to heaven too. Ahem. All of a sudden, the soft noise of someone clearing their throat sounded from the end of the corridor. Turning their heads, they saw Zif standing there with a look of relish on her face. Elder sister Yan, brother-in-law, I've been waiting for quite a while, you know, Zif said. You guys done with all the hugging and kissing yet? I need to use the bathroom. What say you two lovebirds stop torturing a lonely, single woman, like me, eh? Swish. Xian flushed a deep shade of scarlet. She shot Zif a glare. Are you asking for a beating? Ha ha. Zhang Han laughed and released Xian from his hold. His right hand clasped Xian's left hand tightly. Then let's head back and finish our dinner, he said gently. In that moment, Zhang Han had transformed back to the warm and gentle man as he led Xian back to the lobby by hand. Xian chuckled lightly. I'm actually a little full, but I suppose I could have some more. You should eat more and put more flesh onto your body. You're so skinny right now, Zhang Han remarked casually. Skinny? Please, I'm already weighing in 105 pounds. Only 105 pounds? Look at you and your skinny legs and thin arms. Then again, you are pretty curvaceous in the right places. Shut up. Zhang Han and Xian kept on walking, engaging each other in light banter all the while. Zif glared at the pair and grumbled, Hey, you're getting more and more out of line there, now you're just flirting with each other. The pair ignored Zif's grumbling and walked back to their table hand in hand. At their table, everyone was pretty much done with the food. For the people at other tables, however, the feast had barely begun. There were still a lot of ingredients left for the hot pot: fatty beef, high-grade mutton, tendons, ligaments, and various vegetables, you name it. Nobody was having enough. Meng Meng, on the other hand, showed very little interest in the hot pot. Her bright and large eyes were fixed upon the huge piece of cake in front of her. Once in a while she would mumble, "So delicious," while she ate. Then again, Meng Meng did not have a huge appetite. She could barely finish a third of the huge piece of cake before her. Eh? Meng Meng froze. Did I just burp? Well, let me have one final bit of cream, then. Meng Meng picked up her spoon and was just about to dig in when she belched again. Eh? Meng Meng froze again. Just then, Xian turned her head to look at Meng Meng. Xian laughed and said, "Meng Meng, you've had a big piece already. You shouldn't be eating any more, okay?" Meng Meng pouted, but there's still a lot left. If I don't eat it today, I won't get to eat it again tomorrow. Zhang Han reached out and stroked Meng Meng's head. "I'll bring back a piece for you later. You can still have some tomorrow. Then I'll stop eating for now." Meng Meng set her tiny spoon on her plate. Her eyes darted all over the room before they landed on Dai and Little Hai's table. Then, she stretched out her tiny arms and said, "Papa, Papa, carry me down. I want to play with Big Hai Hai and Little Hai Hai." Zhang Han said, picking Meng Meng up and then carrying her over to the other table. After that, he placed Meng Meng in the chair beside Dai. Meanwhile, Dai and Little Hai were having the time of their lives. It was as if Dai and Little Hai were playing a game of Mora. Dai smacked its palm against Little Hai's paw, after which they both took 2 sips of their drinks. Then again, you had to give it to Dai for being a good buddy. Using a huge ladle, Dai served up the meat from the hot pot to itself and Little Hai. Little Hai had finished 3 bottles of beer. Right now, it was feeling a bit lightheaded. It shook its head and released 2 cries. It stopped drinking after that. Its protective instinct had compelled it to stop drinking. It wanted to preserve its senses and reaction time. Dai, on the other hand, was starting to show signs of losing self-control like a typical drunk. Luckily, that was the moment when Zhang Han placed Meng Meng on the chair beside Dai. Chapter 304, Burglary at Mount New Moon. Meng Meng's small palm patted a few times on Dai's thick arms. "Big Hai Hai, Little Hai Hai, have you guys finished eating?" she said in a childish voice. "I'm done, so you guys should hurry up. Let's go play once you're done." "Ow." Little Hai slid to the floor and shook its head. It was Little Hai's way of saying, "We can go play right now." "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh." Dai scratched its head and stood up as well. It was like it was trying to say, "Oh, we're not drinking anymore? Okay, let's go play then." Dai picked up Meng Meng and carried her into a quiet corner of the lobby. There, Dai, Meng Meng and Little Hai began to entertain themselves with games. The atmosphere was still pretty lively after another half an hour had passed. Although they had not drunk much, the 5 ladies, Xian, Zhang Li, Zif, Liu King, and Liana, were sporting red flushes on their faces. Considering that they were all beautiful women, they were truly a sight for sore eyes right then, but because Xian was just too eye-catching, her presence eclipsed those of the other women by a considerable amount. At the same table, Instructor Liu, Zhao Feng, Xuyong, Ahu, and Zhang Han were all drinking to their heart's content. Instructor Liu, who was eager to impress, kept saying things that drew out sounds of beautiful laughs from the women. Nobody had any idea that Instructor Liu even possessed that kind of sense of humor. Zhang Han, on the other hand, would drink to any toast that had been offered to him. Despite the number of glasses that he had drained, his face wore its usual expression. That just went to show how well Zhang Han could hold his liquor. When it was just around 9 o'clock in the evening, Zhang Han began to check the time on his phone repeatedly. At 21:20, Zhang Han went to the washroom. After washing his hands, he pulled out his phone and accessed his QQ mail. He waited until it was precisely 21:21 and 21 seconds. Mail sent. That was another birthday gift, but this time from Zhang Han's other persona. The meaning behind the email's timestamp of 21:21 and 21 seconds was obvious. He went back to the table and partied for another half an hour. The party was almost over at 10 o'clock. Zhang Han glanced at Xian and said, "Shall we head back?" Xian pressed her lips together and nodded. Zif was a little drunk at that point, and her voice had become much louder. "Hey, hey, hey, every moment in the night of spring is worth 1,000 gold. It's time to leave the lovebirds alone and go home." Zif yelled, shaking her head. Zhang Li laughed out loud and pouted at her brother suggestively. "Ha ha, come, let's go home." Zhang Li and Zif's antics incited roars of laughter among the crowd. As a result of the teasing, Xian's face turned a deeper shade of scarlet. Well, her face was already pretty red due to the alcohol, so if Xian was embarrassed, one could not really tell from her face. Zhao Feng stood up and said, "Then I'll bring Dai and the others back." Everyone at Xian's table did some simple cleaning before they stood up and headed for the building's exit. Zhang Han was carrying Meng Meng. Xian was hugging the wooden carving to her chest, looking nothing but exhilarated. Moments later, they reached the lobby's exit. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Han signaled 3 guys who were completely sober. They were their designated drivers tonight. There were 3 cars altogether, one for Zhang Han's family, another for Zif and the other 3 women, and the last one for Zhao Feng, Dai and Little Hai. The rest of the people were still partying and drinking inside. They were planning to let loose and go all out. All 3 cars drove off in the same direction, Zhang Han's restaurant. The first car pulled up in front of the restaurant. Zhang Han stepped out of the car while carrying Meng Meng. After Xian had gotten out of the car as well, they went into the restaurant. The second car drove off towards Zif's place. Zhang Li and the other women would all be crashing at Zif's place tonight. They still had to get up to go to work tomorrow. The third car was Zhao Feng's Land Rover. The Land Rover drove at a slow and casual pace. The lack of speed was most likely due to the fact that Dai was getting high in the back seat. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai might as well be singing a song at this point with all its jumping and clapping. Alas, that brute of a creature had a large build, so every time it moved, the car would sink downwards before springing back up again, and the same thing would repeat, again and again so long as the creature continued its frenzied dance. The end result of all that action was a car which would shake until the cows come home. It was like there was an earthquake inside the car. Well, a carquake, essentially. Safe to say that the driver of the Land Rover was having an exceptional experience driving under such circumstances. On the passenger seat, there was nothing Zhao Feng could do other than watch Dai's shenanigans helplessly. For one, he could not afford to mess with the big brother in the back seat. Dai's delirium had prompted Little Hai to join in the frenzy as well. Once in a while, Little Hai would release a cry or a shout, as if it was trying to set the beats of Dai's song. Woo, woo. It was almost as if it knew what it was doing. Judging from the looks on their faces and their current behavior, Zhao Feng knew that the 2 high powers had had a lot of fun today. Soon, the car exited the town area and drove into the road which led to Mount New Moon. When they were still several minutes out from Mount New Moon, something happened. Zoom. All of a sudden, a van hurtled past them in the opposite direction. At minimum, the van was traveling at 140 km per hour based on its speed. Seriously, racing in a van? Zhao Feng only smiled and shook his head without thinking any further of it. Unbeknownst to Zhao Feng, the van which had just streaked past them was carrying some valuables stolen from the mountain. If Zhao Feng knew, he probably would have ordered the driver to run the Land Rover straight into the van. Then again, he would find out in a few minutes. Because, the moment the rover arrived at Mount New Moon, Zhao Feng opened the door and got out. After that, he opened the backseat door for Dai and Little Hai. "Go back now, little masters," he said. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Dai curled its lips and shook its fist at Zhao Feng. "Now that's more like it. I've decided not to hate you this time. Little Hai slunk out of the car. After taking several steps towards the mountain, Little Hai's nose suddenly began wiggling as it sniffed at the air. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Several sniffs later, Little Hai's ears suddenly picked up the vague sounds of dogs barking. The barking came from the area at the back of the mountain. Swish. A cold glint formed in Little Hai's eyes. It was a look that was fiercer than that of a hungry wolf. Little Hai's mouth parted slightly, revealing its sharp fangs which glinted despite the darkness of the night. Woo! A split second later, Little Hai moved with such a speed that its whole body was reduced to a mere silhouette. In just a few breaths' time, Little Hai had hightailed it into the woods in front. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Dai seemed to have realized that something was wrong as well. With hurried strides, it ran after Little Hai. Zhao Feng's face changed slightly. There was only one possible scenario that could make Little Hai react like that. Something had happened in Mount New Moon. Zhao Feng's heart hammered harshly in his chest at the thought. He took off after the two animals. He sprinted for dozens meters before entering the dark forest. Then, he ran on for a few more seconds until he emerged on the other end of the forest. He stopped and glanced around. Seeing that the front of the mountain still looked the same as they had left it, Zhao Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he hurried to the back of the mountain. When he reached the Thunder Yang tree and saw the state at the back of the mountain, he once again felt great relief. The livestock and pets were all there. But why did Little Hai react that way? Zhao Feng turned his eyes towards Little Hai and saw that Little Hai was still sniffing around endlessly. Again and again, it kept circling around the area where the livestock and crops were kept. Zhao Feng took a closer look and counted the number of the livestock present. A scowl formed on Zhao Feng's face. Something was missing. He knew the total number of livestock in Mount New Moon like the back of his hand because Ahu and the others would always report back to him whenever they took ingredients from here. When Zhang Han had some ingredients that he needed, he would always have Zhao Feng retrieve them from here too. After a thorough examination, Zhao Feng found out what was missing. At least 1/5 of the rice and 1/10 of wheat were missing from the paddy field. None of the Kobe beef cattle were missing, though 2 Hungarian baby sheep pigs, which cost even more than the cattle, were gone. The Tai Lake black swines and Ujimkin sheeps were all accounted for, whereas the chickens, ducks and geese were missing 2 each. Around 7 or 8 pet dogs were injured. All that had rendered Zhao Feng incensed. Someone came and looted the mountain just because they let their guard down for one night. Zhao Feng clenched his jaw forcefully and walked back towards the Thunder Yang tree. Under the tree were 2 buckets of yanking water which he could use to treat the wounded pets. Meanwhile, both Little Hai and Dai were acting strangely. Little Hai bared its fangs and there was a savage look in its eyes. Right then, Little Hai looked just like a wolf at the verge of going berserk. Ow! All of a sudden, Little Hai stretched its neck to the sky and released an angry roar. Its thunderous voice pierced through the night, stirring up shockwaves through entire Mount New Moon. As the butler of Mount New Moon, Little Hai was enraged to learn that someone had stolen from them. If even Little Hai got worked up, it goes without saying that Dai would be enraged too. As the honcho of Mount New Moon, Dai was filled with wrath at what it saw, especially after learning that many of its dog brothers had gotten hurt. Right now, Dai's face held a scary look that was rarely seen on its face. Dai's mouth was wide open, revealing the rows of long teeth inside. Even its eyes had turned murderous. Ow, ow, ow. Dai began to pound its chest wildly as it released roar after roar. It was unleashing the wrath within its heart. Zhao Feng strode over with the buckets. Seeing Dai and Little Hai's behavior, he sighed. He set down the buckets and waved at them. Dai, Little Hai, come here, he ordered. Dai was not in a mood for games, not at a time like this. Together with Little Hai, Dai did as it was told and walked over towards Zhao Feng, panting and growling. All right, that's enough, Zhao Feng said, patting Little Hai's head before moving on to rub Dai's chest. Calm down and stop acting like you're on a warpath or something. It's going to be all right. We just lost a few things, that's all. It's my fault for not making proper arrangements to secure place. I'll tell the master later. I'll make sure to secure place next time I bring you guys out. You two need to stop looking so riled up. Ooh. Dai curled its lips and stomped its foot forcefully. Dai turned its head to the side as if to convey a message with its face. I'm the big boss of the mountain. How can I not be mad? Little Hai remained still, though the dewy tooth was also blocked. Zhao Feng smiled wryly and shook his head. He pulled out his phone and dialed Zhang Han's number straight away. The call went through after a few rings. Hello, Master. Someone broke into Mount New Moon and stole from us. We lost 1/5 of rice, 1/10 of wheat, 2 Hungarian sheep pigs, 2 chickens, 2 ducks and 2 geese. 7 or 8 of our pets are injured. Zhao Feng gave Zhang Han a full rundown of the situation. Then, in a remorseful tone, he said, "This is on me. I've been negligent and forgot about security. I'm sorry, Master." "Oh, it's all right. We just lost some ingredients, that's all. You don't have to shoulder all the blame. Even if they stole everything there, it would only last them for a few days at most. We can grow back the crops and breed new batch of livestock. It matters not. We'll just station a few guys to watch the place next time we bring Dai and Little Hai away from the mountain." "Yes, Master, understood. It won't happen again," Zhao Feng said solemnly. Zhang Han answered before hanging up. Phew. Zhao Feng heaved a sigh of relief. What the master said made a lot of sense to him. It was not like the entire mountain was stolen. The mountain was still exactly where it was. All they lost were a few ingredients and farm animals here and there. The damage was nothing too major in the grand scheme of things. Then again, Zhao Feng had no plans to just let things slide. He would launch an investigation and see if he could figure out the identities of those thieves. By then, as Zhao Feng entertained his thoughts further, he suddenly saw Dai and Little Hai staring back at him. He smiled at them and said, "The master said it was okay. I wonder how long those thieves have been watching us, but I suspect they just happened to stumble upon our place when we were out. Our losses would have been much greater if they were well prepared. In that case, there will likely be a second attempt. They'll be back again after their first taste of success. When the time comes, Dai and Little Hai, you both need to show some restraint, okay? Don't end up killing someone. That would just cause trouble. You shouldn't cause trouble for the master, you understand?" With regards to Zhao Feng's intelligence, Zhao Feng was both clever and sensitive. Zhao Feng had probably already connected all the dots sometime during their unilateral conversation. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai opened its mouth and brandished its fists, looking fierce and bloodthirsty, almost as if it were saying, "Trouble? What trouble? If they come next time, I'll beat them to death." Little Hai, on the other hand, had a look of compliance on its face. Zhao Feng gave Dai a serious look and said, "Dai, I'm not joking around, okay? I still haven't dealt with the trouble you caused the first time I brought you to that villa. God knows what's going to happen if you cause trouble again. That's why you must keep yourself in check even if the thieves do return. Let me handle them." Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai curled its lips and shouted. Then, it reached out and shoved Zhao Feng with its palm. Zhao Feng ended up stumbling forward. Despite everything, Zhao Feng knew from the look on Dai's face that he had gotten the message across. With that, Zhao Feng felt more at ease and grabbed the buckets to tend to the injured doggies. Every time Zhao Feng fed water to the injured doggies, he would bait their heads gently, and every time, he would feel a pang of guilt in his heart. They had all gotten hurt due to his own negligence. He had focused all his attention on Operation Love Confession tonight. When Dai and Little Hai were brought away from Mount New Moon, the place was left without its guardians. Once he was done feeding the dogs, Zhao Feng carried the buckets back to the Thunder Yang tree. While doing so, he could not help but feel a little amused. A lot of true treasures lay here in Mount New Moon, but the thieves had utterly failed to discern them. They did not even touch the 2 buckets of water under the tree, which were practically laid out in the open for them to take. This hinted at the fact that the thieves came here for a specific purpose, to steal ingredients. Well, they had succeeded this time. If they set foot here again next time, Zhao Feng was very interested to find out the identities of those who had big enough balls to steal from them. Elsewhere, in Meng Meng's recreational restaurant, Meng Meng was seated comfortably on the couch, munching on a small slice of apple as she occupied herself with a cartoon playing on the TV. Meanwhile, Xian and Zhang Han were both seated at the small round table beside Meng Meng, enjoying a bottle of red wine worth several 100,000 yuan each. Zhang Han had picked up his phone right in front of Xian. From the words that Zhang Han had spoken into the phone earlier, Xian could pretty much guess what it was that had transpired. Did we lose something from the mountain? Xian asked when Zhang Han put his phone away. Zhang Han nodded and said, yeah, we lost some ingredients. Xian's lips pursed slightly. Then why aren't we calling the police? We should let the police catch the thieves. Nah, it's too troublesome. Right now, I just want to spend some quiet time with you, Zhang Han said while giving Xian a suggestive look. Swish. In an instant, Xian's face turned a deep shade of scarlet. In front of others, she would feel shy too. But when they were alone with each other, her shyness would be accompanied by nerves and anxiety. The look on Xian's face ignited a fire inside Zhang Han's heart. Despite his usual calmness and self-possession, Zhang Han could not help but feel the flame of passion raging in his heart right now. It felt like being in love for the first time. This was the kind of passion that would only be found during the beginning of a relationship, the kind of passion that was beyond the descriptive powers of words. Needless to say, Zhang Han valued a time like this very much. Otherwise, he would not have gone through all the trouble to prepare the gifts today. When Xian felt Zhang Han's fiery gaze upon her, she released a light hum. Humphrey, I wonder who's capable of such atrocious behavior. I mean, stealing, come on. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed and shook his head at Xian's attempt to change the subject. He took a sip of red wine and said, well, there are only a few possibilities, really. The first is that a customer, or customers, of our restaurant had been trying to get their hands on our ingredients. Perhaps they had spent many days looking into it and eventually stumbled upon Mount New Moon. Then again, this is rather unlikely. I'd say that the chances of this being the case are less than 20%. Why do you say that? Xian asked curiously. Oh, because of Dai and Little Hai's presence. Of course, not many people know about them. If it were really true that someone had spent a lot of time investigating, they would have been well prepared, and if they were well prepared, our losses would have been much greater. Clearly, Zhang Han and Zhao Feng shared similar views regarding the incident. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Xian nodded and stared at Zhang Han with a mildly confused look. Then, like a student, she asked, what other possibilities are there? One other possibility, which I think has an 80% chance of being the truth, is that someone from the competition at Aslan restaurant this morning is behind the theft. Zhang Han laughed humorously and continued, we defeated them today. Let's not forget that Liu Qingfeng had even stepped in on our behalf. Considering his status and position, I'm pretty sure he had rebuked quite a lot of people after we left. That LV Zhao will harbor hatred for us, no doubt, and that chef, Wang Long, I could tell just from his face that Liu Qingfeng had reprimanded him before they had arrived at the competition, but there's practically zero chance that Wang Long was a part of the theft, which leaves us with only 3 suspects. LV Zhao is the first one, and then LV Zhao's master, Liu something. The last one is the manager of the restaurant. Why? Xian asked in confusion. Because of hatred and envy, but more than anything else, because of self-interest, Zhang Han explained. What about the owner of Aslan restaurant? Why isn't he a suspect? Because he fears Liu Qingfeng, Zhang Han said. That guy's face changed completely the moment Liu Qingfeng entered the scene. After that, he started walking on eggshells around Liu Qingfeng. That LV Zhao, on the other hand, had kept his head low the whole time, looking angry and dissatisfied. LV Zhao's master kept avoiding everyone's eyes. When he sneaked glances at Liu Qingfeng, Wang Long and the others, I noticed him clenching his jaw at least 5 times. That kind of body language indicates that the guy had evil intentions. The restaurant manager was least likely suspect among them. He was panicking back there. He feared losing his job. At the start, he kept standing beside LV Zhao, but afterwards, he was standing more than 5 meters away from LV Zhao. This goes to show that the manager lived for self-interest and self-preservation. Zhang Han shook his head. So if we take all suspects into account, I'd say that there's a 70% chance that it was LV Zhao and his master behind the theft. Maybe 10% for the restaurant manager. The remaining 20% chance would go to our customers. Xian gave him a slight pout. Oh, how come your observations are so detailed? Zhang Han chuckled. Well, it wasn't that hard, really. It just took me a few glances, that's all. The eyes are the windows to one's soul. To Zhang Han, decoding the facial expressions and eyes of LV Zhao and his companions was merely child's play. However, someone like Liu Qingfeng, who had weathered through many storms and tides, would take much more than such observations to completely decipher. Then why didn't you tell Zhao Feng about it and have him look into it? Nah, they're just a few puny thugs. I won't even bother. Besides, those idiots will return again after today's success, but next time, they won't be so lucky because they'll then have to face the wrath of Dai and Little Hai. Zhang Han felt amused when he pictured the image in his head. His face broke into a wide grin. Xian looked like she was in a bit of a daze. They won't tear the intruders into pieces, will they? Zhang Han shook his head lightly. Nah, I'm sure Zhang Han will warn them. Oh, wow, you're so great. Hey, no, something's not right. All of a sudden, something occurred to Xian. She arched her brows and glared at Zhang Han. If your powers of observation are that great, then why did you ignore me back then? She said in a murderous tone. Tell me. Did you do it on purpose? You deliberately give me the cold shoulder, didn't you? And then you suddenly started acting nice to me so that I'll accept you faster. You devious man. Huh? Zhang Han froze abruptly. Deep down, he was bemoaning his woman's overactive imagination. Wait a few more seconds and she would probably start talking about unicorns flying across the sky. In that moment, Zhang Han really did not know whether to laugh or to cry. No, that's not it. Why would I do that? He said lamely. Then what is it? Xian shot back with a pout. Humphrey, I bet you did it on purpose. You were just biding your time, waiting for the moment I fell into your trap. Her face looked so adorable right then that Zhang Han's heart began hammering against his rib cage. Zhang Han licked his suddenly parched lips. Ahem, number. I could tell, but it was even because I'm skilled in divination and physiognomy. Divination? This isn't just some hocus pocus, is it? Xian said, blinking her large eyes at him. Fine, then, show me what you got. If you fail, I'll never speak to you again. Sure, come sit beside me, Zhang Han said and patted the chair beside him. Xian snorted and stood up, then she sat down on Zhang Han's right. Zhang Han stretched out his hand at Xian. Let's start with palm reading, shall we? Xian pressed her lips together and smiled. She gave him her palm. Holding Xian's hand, Zhang Han stroked it a few times and whispered, so soft. Are you going to start the reading or are you going to keep stalling? Xian said in mock anger, biting her bottom lip gently. Yes, I will. I'm starting now. Zhang Han smiled and perused Xian's palm. DSK. Let's see, how about we start with the career line? Your career line is quite horizontal and flat at the beginning. But when it reached here, Zhang Han touched a spot on Xian's palm. It starts to curve upwards abruptly. That feature represents the fact that you have reached the peak of your career a few years ago. These cracks here represent the time you went to North America. See how the line forms two waves here before it becomes a straight line again? This means that you'll be experiencing ups and downs in your career, but after you weather through them, everything will be smooth sailing. It shows you have a wide career potential. You can easily become a singing queen or a top actress without any problems. Xian noticed the comical look on Zhang Han's face right then and could not contain her laughter. PFFT, you're such a good BLLSHter. You know what you sound like right now? A charlatan. Huh? Hey, this is the real deal. Fine, then, let's move on to your lifeline. It seems like you'll live a long life. Now this one is the marriage line. Look, there's only one, which means... Zhang Han suddenly raised his head to look at Xian. His voice dropped into a soft whisper, you and I will grow old together. Xian pouted. Humphrey, liar, she said in a smiling tone. The way Xian was acting was so alluring that Zhang Han could barely keep it in his pants. Shall we do a face reading now? Aren't you already in the middle of it? Xian said in a leisure tone, blinking her beautiful eyes. Oh, but for me to do a face reading, you must close your eyes. Oh, okay. Xian closed her eyes obediently. The next thing she knew was Zhang Han's lips were on hers. This bastard. After a long time, Xian gently pushed Zhang Han away. She was panting and breathing heavily, and her face was as red as an apple. You meanie, Meng is still here, Xian grumbled, leaning into Zhang Han and pounded her fist against his chest. Zhang Han planted a gentle kiss on Xian's cheek. It's okay, she's watching TV. Eh? Meng's voice sounded from the couch. I'm not watching TV. Swish. Both Zhang Han and Xian turned their heads and saw Meng staring right at them with blinking eyes. Humphrey. Meng said in a tone of dissatisfaction. Papa, Mama, you guys are kissing without me again. I want to kiss too. Meng wants to kiss. Alright, Zhang Han said, once again struggling between tears and laughter. Zhang Han pulled Xian to her feet and, together, they walked towards Meng hand in hand. Meng presented her tiny lips to Xian first. After kissing Xian, the girl went up to Zhang Han and kissed him too. It doesn't taste sweet at all. Then, Mama and Papa, how come you guys are kissing for that long? A bunch of liars. Zhang Han broke into a laughing fit. Rolling her eyes, Xian reached out with her slender hand and pinched Zhang Han's waist. Yeah, the cartoon's back. Meng cheered with her arms above her head when she heard the opening theme of Boonie Bears. The You Had It, a happy and peaceful family, lazing on the couch watching TV. Even the two adults were enjoying the cartoon. Perhaps happiness was really just that simple. A him, a her, and a home, that was all it took. Meanwhile, a total of 4 people were hanging out inside the kitchen of a closed restaurant in Zikeng district. Those people were Luo Sheng, LV Zhao and 2 other Luo Sheng's students. Oh, FCK, this SHT smells so heavenly. Is this even rice? That was Luo Sheng's first reaction when he opened the cover of the rice cooker. Amid the hot steam, the pleasant aroma of the rice wafted into his nose. The aroma was so good that he started cursing like a sailor the moment he smelled it. LV Zhao stared at Luo Sheng with wide eyes. Have a taste, master. Let's all taste it, he said excitedly. Yeah, let's serve up the rice first. Bring the bowls. Luo Sheng barked out. Then, he filled up 4 bowls of rice. After that, the few of them sat at the kitchen counter, staring at the bowls of rice. When the aroma of the rice hit them, they each had to swallow down a mouthful of their own drool. Why don't we try a bit first? Said a man with small eyes. But the chicken is still simmering in the pot, LV Zhao said doubtfully. Luo Sheng was too powerless to resist the lure of the rice's aroma. To hell with it, it's fine, let's just eat first, he said. Luo Sheng picked up a pair of chopsticks and tasted a mouthful of rice. The first bite was taken elegantly, but after that, It was like the notion of table manners just got thrown out of the window. Liu Sheng picked up his bowl and began shoving plain rice into his mouth like a caveman. The same thing happened to the other three men. Very soon, they each gobbled down an entire bowl of plain rice. Their movements were akin to how people enjoy drink at the bar during the olden days. Come, let's drain this bowl of liquor. But here, it was, come, let's finish this bowl of rice. Having each finished a bowl of rice, the few of them shared looks with each other. They immediately recognized the looks of surprise in each of their faces. So I really lost in terms of ingredients. MTHRFCKR, like hell I'd lose if I have access to ingredients like this, LV Zhao said, slapping his thigh forcefully. That's right. Liu Sheng nodded confidently. Lil Zhao, if you use these ingredients, I bet you will win. Shameless FCKRS, relying on ingredients to win, that's cheating. A man with flat-top haircut said angrily. Yeah. And that FCKR even had the balls to act like some badass chef who knew what he was doing, like, come on, waiting until the last minute before starting to cook. It drives me mad just thinking about it. LV Zhao said, clenching his jaw. It's already in the past, it's pointless to complain about it now, Liu Sheng said, waving him off. Now, tell me again about what you saw when you were there at the mountain. Okay. LV Zhao said, taking in a deep, calming breath. I found out about it from a buddy of mine at the agricultural site. He told me that the owner of Meng's recreational restaurant will purchase rice and wheat from the site at intervals. The rice purchased was the Douhuaxiang too. How's that even possible? This is the most fragrant rice I've tasted in my life. That doesn't make any sense. Liu Sheng frowned and thought for a moment. When he failed to come up with an explanation after a while, he told LV Zhao to keep going. Go on. That buddy of mine then told me where they grow their crops. It turned out to be Mount New Moon, apparently. The environment there is superb. Oh, I was also told that there's a huge and vicious hound guarding the place. So, the three of us went to the place 3 days later to check things out. We entered the mountain armed with metal sticks. But we didn't see any hounds, only 10 or so pet dogs. Those little dipshits took their watchdog duties quite seriously, though. They charged at us the moment we got there, but the three of us managed to beat up quite a few of them with our sticks. After that, they began barking like crazy. We were scared that there might be guards nearby, so we took a few things hastily before we hauled ass out of there. We didn't take much, just some ingredients. Some rice, wheat, 2 piglets, 2 ducks, 2 geese, and 2 chickens, but that place pretty much has it all. I mean, it's got dozens Japanese black cattles, dozens of Hungarian sheep, pigs, Thai lake black swines and Ujimkin sheeps. The numbers are objective and factual, SHT. The whole place is a trove for crops and livestock. LV Zhao smacked his thigh again. If we hadn't been in a hurry and if those FCKNG dogs hadn't been barking their heads off, we would have brought back more. I mean, how nice would that be? Liu Sheng's eyes glinted brightly. There's no hurry in that, since we already know where the place is, then. Everything there will be ours sooner or later. But, the man with the flat-top haircut cringed and hesitated for a moment. Then, in a wary tone, he said, what if the Grand Master finds out? I mean, he's so righteous. If he finds out, I fear he'll. The man did not utter the final few words of his statement. He did not need to. Everyone knew what those words were, end our apprenticeships. By now, all the other 3 men were looking at Liu Sheng. None of them had expected the cold sneer from Liu Sheng. So what? Ha ha, I'm telling you, in the culinary world, having the perfect ingredients is king, and the creation of savory dishes is the way of kings. Just picture for a second what would happen if we can get our hands on ingredients like these. Master Chef? What Master Chef? Those Master Chefs are nothing. We would be able to start our own culinary school and earn buttloads of money from now on. Who gives a SHT about apprenticeships when we can earn money From the very beginning, Wang Long had only really taught me for 2 years. After that, he no longer cared. What's the use in that? You know what? I've been thinking about starting my own school for quite some time now. What I lacked was the opportunity. Now, obviously, the opportunity has arrived. Luo Sheng leveled a fiery gaze at everyone. Since we now know where they got their raw materials from as well as where they grew their crops, then what else is there to fear? You guys should stop worrying so much and join me bravely. I guarantee that you'll live a life of wealth and glory in the future. Status, money, you name it, and you'll have it. 3 gasps sounded right then. Looks of excitement formed on the faces of all 3 men. Then again, this has to be done with proper planning. With just the 4 of us, we don't have enough manpower. Find a way to bring everything from the mountain back here. Oh, and take some water and soil samples also. We'll have those samples tested and analyzed. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now. I'll spend a couple more days to think about this. For now, let's just enjoy the chicken. Huh? The sudden change of topic dazed LV Zhao and the other 2 men. Luo Sheng pointed at the pressure cooker. The chicken is done, serve it up. Oh, okay, yes, master. LV Zhao quickly opened the cover of the pressure cooker. Not a few seconds after the pressure cooker was opened, the pleasant aroma of meat wafted through the entire room. That smells heavenly. Hurry up and serve it so that we can taste it. Luo Sheng urged. LV Zhao picked up his pace and served up the chicken meat. Once he was done, everyone took a piece each. They placed the meat into their mouths and took a bite. Oh, this is MTHRFCKNG unrivaled. LV Zhao said, nearing biting his own tongue. Is this even chicken? How can it smell so goddamn good? This is FCKNG too much. My god, it's like I'm eating chicken for the first time of my life. Even Luo Sheng had a wide-eyed look right then. He had been rendered speechless the moment that piece of chicken reached his palate. Luo Sheng found his voice 10 seconds later. With ingredients like this, I, too, can claim the title of Master Chef, he mumbled in shock. Regardless of how much they were enjoying the food's aroma in this moment, the fates of these 4 men had already been sealed the moment they began plotting their second visit to Mount New Moon. Nobody's path to success was ever easy. And for people like them who strayed from the right path, things would obviously not end well. Meanwhile, back at Meng Meng's recreational restaurant, familial love continued to thrive. The family of 3 had been watching TV until it was 22:40, when the cartoon ended. Or, the show ended. Meng Meng said as if she had been left hanging, but I still want to watch some more. Humph. Xian gave her daughter a small smile. The show will pick up tomorrow, Xian said, reaching out to pinch Meng Meng's tender cheeks gently. It's almost 11 o'clock now, it's time for us to go to bed. How about we ask Papa to tell us a story? Yes, I want to hear the one about the King of Dwarfs. Then, Meng Meng held out her tiny arms to Zhang Han. In a childish voice, she said, Papa, I want a hug. Coming, Zhang Han said. He picked up the TV remote and switched off the TV. Then, he took Meng Meng into his arms. Kiss. Meng Meng burst her lips at Zhang Han like a goldfish. Mew-ack. Zhang Han planted one right on Meng Meng's waiting lips. Annoyed, Xian shot a look of disapproval at Zhang Han. Meng Meng had never demanded kisses from Zhang Han before. Now that Meng Meng had seen her and Zhang Han kissing, Meng Meng was starting to want kisses too. Then again, it was alright for Meng Meng to kiss Zhang Han. What worried Xian was that Meng Meng might try to kiss other people too. After a moment of thought, Xian said, Meng Meng, you can kiss Papa like this, but you can't do that with other people. Do you understand? I know, Papa told me already, no kissing with others, no hugging also. Meng Meng told Xian with a serious face. Good, Xian said, scratching Meng Meng's nose gently. Now what say we go upstairs and head to bed? Right now. Xian's gait was so light that she was practically walking on springs. Chapter 305, Let the intimacy begin. They entered the bedroom on the second floor. Zhang Han placed Meng Meng on the bed. When he was about to help Meng Meng get changed into her pajamas, Xian suddenly grasped Zhang Han's arm and pushed him gently in the direction of the door. That's all right. You should go out first. I want to change, too. Why don't? Zhang Han trailed off, watching Xian with beady eyes. Then, he said, okay. Why don't I help you change into your pajamas? Yeah? That statement would probably earn him a hail of daggers from Xian's eyes. Seeing the sheepish look on Zhang Han's face, Xian could not help but laugh. Just get out, she said, giving his arm another shove. All right, Zhang Han said, nodding. When Zhang Han walked out, Xian shut the door. Zhang Han just stood there, watching the closed door intently. In his mind's eye, the image of Xian's beautiful and shapely figure floated before him. Then, his traitorous mind supplemented that image with extra details which involved a gorgeous woman changing her clothes. All of a sudden, a raging inferno of passion broke out inside his heart. Men were prurient creatures. There was a lot of truth in that statement. Then again, there were nuances with regards to the prurience of men. A man who was obsessed with all kinds of beautiful women would be dubbed a playboy, whereas a man obsessed with only his wife would be dubbed a good man. Happiness would befall to a man who could keep it in his pants around other women. If a man failed to keep it in his pants, well, there was a term for that, too, adultery. Of course, Zhang Han was a legitimate good man. He had desires, too, of course, but his desires had been suppressed for a long time. Then, Xian came along and breathed life into his dormant desires. Should I open the door and take a peek? Zhang Han gulped. I don't think she'll say no to me if I take a peek. She'll even act shy and coy. And the way she looks like when she's shy. Zhang Han gulped again. That does it, I'm opening the door. Zhang Han reached out and placed his hand on the door handle. As he was pressing down on the door handle, Zhang Han could distinctly feel his pulse racing and his heart hammering in his rib cage like there was no tomorrow. Only Xian could incite such feelings of nervousness and passion in him. Zhang Han liked it very, very much. Burning with passion, Zhang Han pressed down on the door handle fully and slowly pushed the door open. He looked right into the room. What he saw inside was completely different from what he had imagined. Xian had already changed into a pair of azure pajamas and was in the middle of helping Meng Meng get changed. Feeling a bit odd, Zhang Han asked, how did you get changed so fast? If not? Xian pressed her lips together and smiled. Huh? Hey, I never told you I was done. I never called you inside, and yet you already opened the door. Looks like somebody has shown his true colors. Meng Meng pouted her tiny lips and mumbled, Papa showed his true colors. Zhang Han chuckled dryly and walked into the room. Ahem, hee, I'll help you. Together, he and Xian helped Meng Meng get changed. The moment Meng Meng was in her pajamas, she took off in a ran and waddled all the way to the head of the bed. Story time, story time. She yelled, blankets. Meng Meng shouted and then crawled under the covers. Xian climbed onto the bed from Meng Meng's left and got under the covers too. Time to get to work, storyteller, Xian said. Right now she, too, was like an obedient child, staring at Zhang Han with innocent eyes. Zhang Han smiled and nodded. Like usual, he lay on top of the covers and supported his head with his hand. Before he could begin the story, he heard Xian's lazy voice. Why don't you change into your pajamas and lie down under the covers with us? Meng Meng froze slightly. A moment later, she raised her little hand and patted the spot on her right side. Papa, change into your pajamas and lie down beside me. Zhang Han laughed. Sure, he said before standing up and heading to the door. He only took 2 steps before stopping abruptly. He turned his head around and said, I don't have any pajamas. What? How come you don't own any pajamas? Xian asked in a puzzled tone. When I was younger, I liked to sleep in the nude. Now am I just sleep in my boxers? Oh, Zhang said with a nod, already planning to buy a few pajamas for Zhang Han tomorrow. The next thing Zhang saw, however, downright short-circuited her mind. Right before her eyes, Zhang Han was taking off his jacket, and then his clothes, piece by piece. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Zhang pulled the covers over her head. Moments later, she was filled with curiosity. She lowered the blanket a little, revealing a pair of beautiful and large eyes which were blinking as they peeked at Zhang Han. God, he has an amazing body. Zhang bit down on her lower lip as she sneaked a peek. Today, Zhang Han was dressed in casual attire. With the jacket out of the way, she saw a white, short-sleeved t-shirt which clung to his torso. Moments later, even the t-shirt was gone, and Zhang Han's torso was left bare. His pecs and abs were defined, his biceps were very toned as well. Overall, his build was very balanced and well-proportioned. His muscles were not as exaggerated as those of a bodybuilder, of course, but he still looked fit and muscular. Looking at him would give one the impression of a perfectly proportioned male body. Even Zhang was giving him silent cheers in that moment. The next thing Zhang saw made her pause. Zhang Han first unbuckled his belt and then took off his pants straight away. In a split second, Zhang Han was left in a pair of boxers which clung to his body like a second skin. Ah! Zhang let out a soft yelp and quickly yanked the blanket upwards to cover her eyes. Her heart was leaping around in her chest like a little deer. He's so big down there, it's like he's... Zhang spent a few more seconds in her thoughts before she lost her self-control and lowered the blanket furtively. But Zhang Han was already climbing into bed by then. Under Meng's incessant urging, Zhang Han lifted the blanket and, for the first time, lay down in the bed. Lying between the two adults, Meng looked absolutely delighted. "Papa, hug. Mama, hug too," she said, prompted by the kid's urging. The two adults leaned further into the middle. Just like that, the family of three was having a group hug under the blanket. "I'll get on with the story now, okay?" Zhang Han said. Then, he cleared his throat slightly and began his narrative. So the King of Dwarfs and the King of Dark Elves embarked on a dangerous journey together. Their goal was... Zhang Han told the story in a deep voice. However, Meng seemed to be very energetic today. She listened to the story with deep interest and showed no signs of dozing off at all. Well, that had gotten Zhang Han into a bit of a state. "Little girl, why aren't you sleeping yet?" So, Zhang Han deepened his voice further while slowing the pace of his voice, as if he was singing a lullaby. Only then did Meng start to feel sleepy. Around 10 minutes later, Zhang Han's wish was granted. The kid was asleep. Hee. Zhang Han chuckled and reached out with both his arms to pick up Meng. Then, he got up and walked over to Meng's little bed and laid her down. Zhang Han draped the blanket over Meng's sleeping form and then planted a gentle kiss on her pink cheek. After that, Zhang Han climbed swiftly back into Zhang's bed. Zhang's mind was already a bit hazy due to sleepiness. I didn't say you could come up," she said in a delicate voice. "Hey, get off the bed." Zhang reached out her palm and shoved Zhang Han gently. From the look on her face, like she wanted him but was too shy to ask for it, and the way her voice sounded like right then, Zhang Han knew that he would be an idiot if he got off the bed now. So Zhang Han grabbed Zhang's hand, the same one she had reached out in order to push him. Then, he pulled Zhang into his arms in one swift motion. "Hey! What are you doing, you meanie?" Zhang's face was flushed. In mock anger, she said, "You, hump." She felt the pressure on her thin, sexy lips before she could even finish. Just like that, the two of them were wrapped in a tight embrace. Zhang Han could feel Zhang's softness vividly. Zhang, too, could feel wave after wave of his overwhelming masculinity crashing down on her, nearly suffocating her in the process. It was as if the temperature of the room was rising higher and higher. Soft sounds of their kisses filled the quiet room. Zhang's kisses still felt rather awkward and stiff. However, under Zhang Han's teasing, Zhang was starting to respond. Their body temperatures skyrocketed. Eventually, Zhang Han's hands were starting to get naughty. Somehow, the shirt of Xian's pajamas had been pushed up to her neck. The sight of her nakedness and the sheer beauty of it was, decidedly, something never to be divulged to outsiders. Only Zhang Han alone could comprehend the profound depths of her beauty in this moment. Time slipped past without either of them knowing. Their lips separated from each other. In that moment, it was as if there was sheen, or a sparkle, inside Xian's stunning eyes. Her eyes glimmered and gleamed repeatedly. Zhang Han knew what that meant. Xian was enamored, she was in the mood. Which was why Zhang Han pressed himself on top of Xian's body. His hands started to wander, demanding the feel of her skin. "Oh, you meanie, you, ah." Once again, she was hit by a wave of desire whose description was beyond the power of words. Xian's face was completely red. Zhang Han knew that tonight was his night of sexual bliss. "Stop it, you meanie. Meng's here," Xian said softly after their lips separated for a second time. Panting slightly, Zhang Han said in low voice, "Phew, then we'll go to the secondary bedroom." No, we can't." "Yes, we can." Zhang Han could no longer contain the burning desire in his heart. His hands sought out more skin. That got Xian so excited that her back was arching off the bed. Alas, just when Zhang Han's excitement had risen to a certain level, Xian's lips slowly parted and she dropped the bombshell. It's my time of the month today." Kaboom! Zhang Han's eyes widened and froze in their sockets. Her words had struck him like a bolt from the blue. It was like she had just doused the fire inside his heart with a bucket of ice water. He had no idea what was going on inside his own mind right now. He was completely flummoxed, and in a who am I, where am I, what am I doing sort of way. It felt a little bit like when he wanted to cry but could not shed a tear. It also felt a bit like what was expressed by the popular internet saying, "I've already taken off my pants, and you only tell me now?" PFFT. Xian could not help but laugh at the look of bewilderment on Zhang Han's face. "Look at you, acting like an idiot," Xian said in a tone of mock anger. Then, she gave Zhang Han another gentle shove. All right, get off the bed. My period came only this afternoon. Besides, I don't want to be defiled by a pervert like you so soon, eh?" That. Still in a state of half-stupor, Zhang Han lay down beside Xian. 2 seconds later, he recovered his senses. "Well, whatever, Xian is already mine, anyway, she'll give herself over me eventually. There's no point in getting all bent out of shape over one missed opportunity." An evil smile formed on Zhang Han's lips and he pulled Xian into his arms again. This time, he shifted their positions so that she was on top of him. He stared into Xian's beautiful eyes and said, "I'll let you roam freely for a few more days, Little Red Riding Hood, Humphrey, pervert, but I have a severe case of blue balls right now. What should I do?" Zhang Han teased, grinning at Xian. Xian reddened even further at that suggestive remark. "Cold shower?" she shot back. With Xian looking so adorable, Zhang Han stole another kiss. Although he had run out of luck at the end, he would still consider tonight a big win. Other than the fact that he could not follow through on the final step, the rest of his plan had been pretty much smooth sailing. Despite all the effort he had put in to seduce her, Zhang Han did not get his wish. Still, he did not try to force things. They had all the time in the world after all. It was totally fine to take things slow. Everything would work out eventually. In the end, Zhang Han and Xian just lay there in each other's arms, whispering words of adoration to each other. Slowly, they both descended into a peaceful sleep. The night went by silently. Zhang Han slept in the next morning, which was a rare thing for him to do. They were both woken up at 8 o'clock in the morning by Meng, who was the first to wake. Xian opened her eyes hazily. She immediately noticed the state of undress in her upper body. She blushed and nudged Zhang Han to put on some clothes. Zhang Han laughed out loud and got up to put his clothes back on. After washing up, He went downstairs to prepare breakfast. However, the moment he came downstairs and looked out of the window, he froze. Why are there so many people waiting outside? Zhang Han thought. Chapter 306, Going Out to Play. Zhang Han shook his head with a smile. The foodies were quite determined. Zhang Han walked over and opened the door. Immediately, he heard many people complaining outside. It's finally open, we've been waiting for a long time. I'm starving to death. Oh my god, you finally opened the door. I have to go to work in 40 minutes. Do we still have time? Zhang Han glanced at the crowd and nodded slightly while saying, it'll take only 10 minutes to make the noodle soup, and the egg fried rice will be ready at 8:40. There's still time. Alright, time is tight. But we'll wait for the egg fried rice. Everyone was relieved. Zhang Han did not say anything. He turned to the kitchen, cooked the rice first, and then began to make the noodle soup. Making noodle soup was simple for Zhang Han. After kneading the dough, making the noodles, putting them in the boiling water and adding some seasoning, he would be finished. As far as the egg fried rice was concerned, the rice needed to be cooked first. While Zhang Han was cooking, the area reserved for ordinary patrons was full of people. However, there was no one in the VIP area. The ordinary guests were all talking about the same thing. Did you see last night? There were super large-scale fireworks at New Moon Bay. It was wonderful. I saw it clearly in Zhikang district. It is definitely more beautiful here. Crap. Of course I saw it. You know what? It was wonderful last night. When the fireworks were set off, all the pedestrians on the street stopped. Even the cars stopped. The drivers and the passengers all got off to watch the fireworks. The whole New Moon Bay lit up. What you know is too one-sided. Do you know where it happened or why they set off the fireworks? Ha ha. What happened? What happened? I was eating at the opposite side of the CBD building, so it was quite clear. In the CBD, someone proposed marriage. My god, the guy had so many plans. The fireworks were only a small part of it. It was great seeing it in person. Many balloons rose up and exploded. There were rose petals inside the balloons. Countless petals were falling down just like rain. Zhang Han, who vaguely heard their discussion, shook his head and smiled. He didn't care about other people's opinions. He had prepared so much, just because he didn't want him or Xian to have any regrets. Moreover, this hadn't been a marriage proposal at all. It had just been a confession of love. Zhang Han certainly had other ideas about proposing. While he was kneading the dough, Zif, Zhang Li and the others came in. It was obvious that they had all dressed up and gotten up really early this time because Liana had called them. Liana needed to go to work at 9 o'clock and had to get up then. The other three wanted to have breakfast, so they had asked her to wake them up in the morning. Thus, they had gotten up quite early today. Brother-in-law, how was your beautiful night? Where is my sister? Did she get up? Were you too tired last night? Zif walked to the kitchen counter and raised her eyebrows at Zhang Han. She got up. She's upstairs, Zhang Han replied with a smile. Then I'll go see if her face is all ruddy and shiny. Zif wagged her head and ran up. Brother, she's finally yours now. Are you excited? Zhang Li gave her brother a thumbs up and then followed her with a smile. Zhang Han, congratulations, Liana said while licking her lips. Liu King, who was an introvert, just smiled shyly. Although she didn't say anything, her look expressed everything she thought. Zhang Han, who found their behavior very funny, shook his head and smiled. Everyone thought that it had all happened, but there was still something that needed to be done. However, Zhang Han could not explain this kind of thing to anyone. In his heart and Xian's heart, this was already a real home. Their relationship had become much closer thanks to Zhang Han's romantic moves. Zif went upstairs and looked around. She saw Meng sitting on the sofa and playing with toys. Upon seeing Zif, the little girl waved her hand and pouted. Auntie Fei, Auntie Lili, where is your mum? Zif asked. Oh, over there. Meng pointed in the direction of the bedroom. Zif gambled into the bedroom. Xian had just finished dressing up. She was wearing a pair of light blue jeans and a thin sweatshirt, her hair was up in a ponytail, and she looked very relaxed and casual. Let me see. Hey, look, your skin really looks better, your face is ruddy. The power of love is so great. Zif, who ran over to look at her carefully, couldn't stop praising her. Fei, you're becoming naughtier and naughtier, aren't you? Xian told her as she rolled her eyes. Ha ha ha, I've always been so naughty. Zif said happily. Suddenly, she stopped and said, Elder Sister Yan, we're going to work today, aren't we? You look too casual. I'm not going to work, Xian answered, her lips curling up. You're not going to work? Zif was stunned. Then, she suddenly realized what was happening. Oh, I know, you're going to continue your romantic dates with my brother-in-law. Anyway, whether we go there or not makes no difference. Xian licked her lips and rolled her eyes. But the old witch asked us to sit there every day, Zif said a little helplessly. Anyway, I'm not going. Xian said with determination. She was just like a young lady with a hot temper, which surprised Zif a bit. She had known Elder Sister Yan for many years, but she had seldom seen her act so willfully. Wow! The power of love was really great. If you don't want to work, then forget it. Just play for a few more days. Elder Sister Yan, go on a honeymoon with my brother-in-law. Why don't you? The two of you should spend several days together, Zif suggested. Xian blinked her big eyes. Although she was looking forward to it, she was also a little hesitant. Thus, she said, Meng is such a clingy kid, Zhang Han will definitely take her wherever he goes. Hey, here. Zif shook her head repeatedly and pointed to herself. What do you mean, me? Zif said excitedly, I can look after Meng. You two can just enjoy yourselves. The two of you should have some private time. You? Xian shook her head with a smile and said, it seems like you can persuade Meng. Hey, it's just a piece of cake, look at me. Zif patted her chest and then walked out of the bedroom. Zif walked over to Meng quickly, smiled and asked, Meng, what are you playing here? Huh? I'm playing with my little car. Meng found Auntie Fei really strange as she looked at her. There was obviously a small car in her hands. Why had she asked? Did she not know that it was a car? Oh, a little car. Zif grinned. She lowered her head and whispered in Meng's ear, I just talked to your mom. Guess what I told her? What? Meng's cute big eyes were full of confusion. I said that I want to take you out to play and eat delicious food, but your mom did not agree. She said that you would definitely stay with your dad, Zif whispered. Well, I want to be with Papa and Mama, Meng muttered with a pout. Hey, I wanted to take you to eat KFC, Zif whispered in Meng's ear with a sigh. Huh, KFC? Meng muttered. She didn't show much interest. Hey, Auntie Fei has a big birthday cake over there. Huh? Meng's eyes lit up. Hey, Auntie Fei also wants to take you out to eat ice cream. Huh? Hey, Auntie Fei also wants to take you out and get you your favorite candy. Huh? Candy. Hey, Auntie Fei still has a lot of snacks. Huh? Really? At last, Meng's eyes were really bright and her expression seemed to say, I want to eat. Too bad your mama didn't allow you to come and eat. Zif looked very helpless. Upon seeing this, Zhang Li and the other two people could not help but laugh. This woman really knew how to coax a kid. But I want to eat. Meng pouted her lips. She put her little hands together, looking very helpless. I have an idea. Zif finally began to get to the topic. She immediately whispered in Meng's ear, you can just be with Auntie Fei. We'll play on Mount New Moon, and then Auntie Fei will take you to eat delicious food. Your mom won't see us, so we will eat what we want. Then I will play with Auntie Fei. Meng, who was tempted, said to her, you can't tell them that. You have to let your mom and dad go out to play. If they go out to play for a whole day, we can eat a lot of delicious food. Zif was coaxing her step by step. Oh, Meng pouted her lips and blinked her big eyes. She was wondering how to make Mama and Papa went out to play for a whole day. It was so hard. A few minutes later, Xian walked out of the bedroom just as Zhang Han came up with breakfast. Thus, everyone started having breakfast. When he was about to start eating, Zhang Han saw Meng lower her head and asked with some curiosity, Meng, why aren't you eating? Huh? Meng was stunned. She raised her head and looked at Papa and Mama with her big eyes as she said in a cute voice, Oh, Papa. Mama. What's wrong? Xian replied, You have to go out to play. You go out to play, and I'll play with Auntie Fei. You go out to play for a whole day, okay? Meng said innocently. Ha ha. Xian couldn't help but laugh. She looked at the smug Zif and wondered how she had talked to Meng to make the little girl look forward to playing with her so much. Meanwhile, Zhang Li and the other two people who saw what was happening couldn't stop laughing. Meng looked so cute. Why do you want Mum and Dad to go out to play? Zhang Han laughed and gently touched Meng's cute little head. Oh, Papa and Mama just have to go out to play. Meng looked at Zhang Han without blinking her eyes. As he looked at the little girl's eyes, Zhang Han nodded and said, Okay. Great. Meng was so excited that she began to eat breakfast happily. All she was thinking about were cakes, ice cream, candy, and snacks. Chapter 307, Lover's World. Meng naturally didn't know that she had been fooled by someone else. However, if she stayed with Auntie Fei only for one day, she could eat the candy that Mama didn't allow her to eat usually, as well as a lot of snacks. The little guy was very willing to be with her. However, if it had been for a long time, a bigger temptation would still have been rejected. After Zhang Han saw this, he couldn't help laughing. Upon seeing the expressions of Zif, Zhang Li and the others, he thought about it and soon realized what was going on. This was good. He could just go play with Xian for a day. Ever since they had met, the two of them almost hadn't spent any time alone. A normal relationship started from acquaintance and developed to mutual understanding and love. This was a process and a great experience to have in life. The relationship between Zhang Han and Xian was relatively simple. They hadn't known each other too well before they had directly gotten to this stage after having Meng by accident. They had not been passionately in love before, like other couples were. But even so, they still felt extremely happy and they really cherished each other. Soon, Meng finished eating breakfast. She sat on the sofa, staring at Zhang Han and Xian with her big bright eyes. After they finished eating, Meng said quickly, Hey, Papa, Mama, have you finished eating? We have. Zhang Han nodded. Then, why don't you go out to play? Meng said seriously. Okay, we'll go out and play. A funny idea flashed through Zhang Han's eyes as he was about to go over to hug her. Upon seeing this, Meng moved her little body and quickly climbed back. Oh no, I'm not going. You and Mama go out to play. Meng was so cute that Xian couldn't help but laugh. She also wanted to play a little trick. Thus, she coughed and said, Hey, Meng, if you let me and Papa go out to play, what do you want to do? Huh? Meng was stunned. She was so nervous. She pouted her lips and constantly wagged her little hands. Then, she said as if she was totally innocent, Nothing. Auntie Fei insists on playing with me. There's nothing. Papa, Mama, just go quickly. Okay, but you have to behave well. If you don't, your dad and I will come back at any time. Xian smiled as she spoke. Okay, I'll be good. Meng will be a good girl. Meng reassured them seriously. Okay, Papa and Mama will go out to play. Xian smiled. She went back to the bedroom and took 2 pairs of sunglasses and her cap. Then, she came out and handed Zhang Han a pair of sunglasses. Zhang Han took them and put them on. Then, He took Xian's hand and went downstairs. Wow, ha ha ha. Meng Meng, who had been watching them all the time, looked at Zif and laughed. The little girl's expression seemed to imply that she was waiting for someone to praise her. Look. How was it? Was I great? When they saw her like that, Zif, Zhang Li and the others couldn't help but laugh. It's almost the time. Anna, I'll drive you to the company first, okay? Zhang Li said while glancing at the watch. Liana didn't have a car. There also wasn't too much time left, so when Zhang Li came, she said she would give her a ride. Okay. Liana nodded, then, she got up and walked to the stairs with Zhang Li. Then I will go back and take the subway, Liu King said while looking at Zhang Li. Hey, don't leave, Liu King, you and Lili will go to work at night, right? Stay here in the daytime, let's have fun together. You haven't been to Mount New Moon, right? Zif asked Liu King quickly before she looked at Zhang Li and said, Lili, come back after you take Anna there, alright? Oh yes, Auntie Lili, come back. Meng Meng waved her small hand at Zhang Li. Okay, I will come back after I take Anna there. Liu King, you can just stay here, we can go back at 7 o'clock in the evening, it'll be okay, Zhang Li said. Alright. Liu King nodded and sat back again. Zif smiled and looked at Liu King. When she was about to say something, a cute voice came from behind her. Auntie Fei, where is my cake? Zhang Han and Xian walked hand in hand down the stairs. There were still many diners downstairs. Liang Mengkai and her two friends, Zhao Feng, as well as Wang Qi and his partner, were all here. They nodded and said hello after seeing the couple. It was a bit strange. It was the first time they saw the boss and his wife hand in hand. Zhang Han and Xian walked straight out of the restaurant. Zhao Feng thought for a while and then got up to follow them. The lady looks a bit familiar. I think I have seen her before. It is strange. Who on earth is that? Liang Mengkai muttered in confusion. She didn't know that there were two photos of Xian on the wall. If she raised her head and saw them, maybe she would remember, yet she did not notice the photos at all. The lady is really beautiful. Zhao Du shook his head as he expressed his opinion. Of course she is. Yu Qingqing stared at her and then looked at Liang Mengkai and said, Mengkai, tell me the truth. Do you still have feelings for the boss? Last night, she had slept in the same room with Liang Mengkai. In the evening, while she had still been playing a mobile game, Liang Mengkai had fallen asleep. While she had been sleeping, she had muttered Zhang Han's name twice. This had made Yu Qingqing a little vigilant. She felt that, as a friend, she should try to persuade her to stop loving him so deeply. He already had a happy family, her love would remain unrequited, which would cause her more pain if she continued to love him. When Liang Mengkai heard these words, she looked at Yu Qingqing and thought for 3 seconds. Finally, she nodded and said honestly, yes, I do. No. Yu Qingqing tapped her forehead and said, Mengkai, you can't be like this. Liang Mengkai laughed and said, okay, I have a sense of propriety. I like him, but I won't do anything. I like special, excellent men like the boss, but I won't do anything inappropriate. It was something people always regretted. Zhang Han would be an indelible figure in her mind from now on. Although she liked him, she would not do anything. Besides, her feelings for him weren't love at all. Maybe when she met her true love in the future, she would find her current thoughts silly and funny. Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, Zhao Feng walked quickly and followed them. Boss, madam, where are you going? He said. To enjoy the world, just the two of us. Xian answered with a faint smile. We're going out to play, Zhang Han said. Would you like me to follow you? Zhao Feng asked. While having fun outside, sometimes people needed to queue up or buy something. Zhao Feng wondered whether he would be responsible for these things, so he asked to find out. Zhang Han thought for a while and said, you stay in the restaurant. If Zif and the others go out to play, you can accompany them. He was not with Meng Meng. Now that only Zif was by her side, he didn't feel assured. Okay. Zhao Feng nodded. Then, Zhang Han and Xian got in the humble panda car. Zhao Feng walked to the restaurant and called Ahu over. Ahu, bring a few people to the restaurant. Not too many, 3 or 4 will be enough. The others should learn as usual. These days, in addition to daily training, security members had started to gain some professional knowledge regularly. The lecturers were all professors hired by Liu Qingfeng and the daily schedule was quite tight. However, if something came up, people could be mobilized and the lessons could be given later. After all, this was not a school, so the curriculum was not fixed. Zhang Han and Xian were in the panda car, heading for Zikeng district. Where are we going to play? While waiting for the red light, Xian licked her lips, looked at Zhang Han and asked him about their plans. We'll go to the Deepwater Bay Yacht Club first, Zhang Han replied with a smile. We'll go to the sea? Yes. Don't look at me like this, the red light is about to change. When Xian saw Zhang Han looking at her with steady eyes, she felt a little shy. I like watching you, you are so beautiful, I just can't take my eyes off you, Zhang Han said softly. Come on, give me a kiss. I won't. The cars behind them honked. Hurry up, the people behind us are getting anxious. No, give me a kiss and I will move. Zhang Han smiled and looked at Xian before bringing his lips near hers. He liked to look at Xian when she was shy, although it was daytime. It seemed that when she was with him, Xian acted more and more like a timid little girl, which Zhang Han found quite enjoyable. Mew. Xian couldn't persuade him, so she finally gave him a kiss. The soft kiss made Zhang Han laugh happily. Then, he started the car with satisfaction. Their day alone finally began. Chapter 308, Renting a Yacht. Deepwater Bay was a bay in Hong Kong. It was located in the south of Zikeng district on South Island and was a bay with a deep concave shape that had become a famous place for yachting. The Deepwater Bay Yacht Club was one of the large yacht clubs in the Deepwater Bay area. Zhang Han drove all the way to Zikeng district. While waiting for the traffic light, Zhang Han inadvertently saw a supermarket on the roadside. He parked the car on the roadside, looked at Xian and said, "Wait for me here, I'll go buy something." "What are you going to buy?" Xian asked. "You'll find out later." Zhang Han smiled. He got out of the car and walked to the supermarket quickly. 3 minutes later, Zhang Han walked back with a plastic bag. When he got in the car, Xian looked at the plastic bag curiously and asked, "What's inside?" "Tampons." Zhang Han smiled and handed the bag over. He stepped on the gas pedal and said, "You're on your period, right? We will get wet when we go to the sea." He knew this was common sense thanks to Zhang Li. Women could also swim when they were having a period, but they had to use tampons. If the temperature of the water was not too low, they could play as usual. "Oh, okay." Xian blinked and bit her lower lip lightly. Then, she said meaningfully, "You are so considerate." Ha ha. Zhang Han, who naturally got what she meant, smiled and said directly, "I want to see you in a bikini." Xian snorted and felt her face get a little hot. She quickly turned her head and looked out of the car. Then, she took a look at the plastic bag and muttered, "I don't need that much. Just in case," Zhang Han answered with a smile. Xian muttered again, although Zhang Han didn't hear clearly what she said. Upon looking at that cute face, he couldn't stop laughing. They arrived at the Deepwater Bay Yacht Club. Its office building was located on the shoreline. When Zhang Han's car stopped, the employee who was ready to welcome them curled his lips. "It's the first time I see such a cheap and small car here," the male employee said to himself. There was no sarcasm in his words. He was just a worker here, so he didn't even have a car. He just felt that this customer wouldn't spend so much at this place. "Wow, this chick is so hot." After seeing Xian get out of the car, the eyes of the man in the suit lit up. She was eye-catching. However, when he saw the man who got out of the driver's seat, he curled his lips again and muttered to himself, "Obviously, all he has is his good looks. This young man is handsome. In this society, to win a beauty's heart, you must be wealthy or handsome. When can a man like me, who doesn't have a handsome face or a fat wallet, get a girlfriend. It's really disappointing. Soon, Zhang Han walked in, holding Xian's hand. Xian was wearing a cap and a pair of sunglasses, while Zhang Han was wearing the same style of sunglasses as hers. They were just like lovers' sunglasses. "Hello, sir, what kind of service do you need?" the man asked with a smile. "Yacht," Zhang Han replied. "May I ask for how many people?" The man asked again. "The two of us." "Okay, sir, please sit here." The man led Zhang Han and Xian to the tea table nearby. After they sat down, he took out some disposable cups and poured tea for them. Then, he took out an iPad and opened the picture on it while saying, "Sir, I will introduce our yachts first. This small OY01A Bavaria Virtus 420 is suitable for 2 people and has the best price-performance ratio. It's also suitable for family activities. The cost is 5,500 yuan per day for 2 people, including free water, an inflatable floating bed and an inflatable banana boat. Sir, I suggest that you buy a couple packages for 12,800 yuan, which includes..." "Tell us about the best ones directly," Zhang Han said as he waved his hand. "Ah, okay, no problem." The man, who was stunned, quickly nodded his head. He guessed that this young man must have not won the beauty's heart yet, so he was willing to spend a fortune for her today. The man realized that Zhang Han, who drove a little panda car, wasn't rich at all, but he had to spend a lot of money to please a girl. He suddenly thought that Zhang Han was really pathetic. However, upon looking at Xian's pretty face, he felt that everything was worth it. She was so beautiful. He silently gurgled. The man secretly swallowed his saliva and quickly opened the picture. This LA-13A New Marine 78 Flybridge luxury yacht is one of the best yachts here. The daily rent is 48,000 yuan for 8 hours. There is air conditioning, karaoke, facilities for music and other stuff included. There is one room and a sightseeing place on the top. The cab is at the lower floor. The driver can't see anything on the top. It absolutely has the greatest private space. The man thought that Zhang Han might be planning to do something romantic there, so he said this to them specifically. Before the man had finished his words, Zhang Han nodded and said, "That's it. Okay, sir, please pay here." The man was very happy. He got up and led Zhang Han to the service desk. He was so happy that he soon realized he had forgotten to tell them about the water games. Thus, he stopped in his tracks and said hurriedly, "Sir, I wonder if you need any aquatic toys, like speedboats, banana boats, canoes, inflatable slides, inflatable trampolines, inflatable rocking boards, etc. These are available at an extra charge." "Oh, are 100,000 enough?" Zhang Han said casually. "Ah?" The man suddenly froze. All these toys together cost only over 10,000. 100,000 were too much. Thus, he said, "That's enough. Apart from that, there are some packages for drinks, including beer, red wine, soda." What he meant was that after paying the extra fee for the water games and the drinks, there would still be some money left. When he was ready to pay the bill at night, they would return the money to this generous man. However, Zhang Han unexpectedly interrupted him. He waved his hand, took the phone, and said calmly, "Then I will give you 200,000. You don't need to explain, just bring us everything." "Ahem, ahem," the man, who was shocked again, said in astonishment, 100,000 yuan is more than enough. The money left is..." While he looked at him, Zhang Han said calmly, "Your tip." Kaboom! The man felt like he had been struck by lightning. He was so excited over his luck. This good luck had come so suddenly. He was so shocked that he froze there for a moment. "Thank you for the tip, sir. Thank you. Please pay here." The girl with the ponytail at the service desk responded quickly with great enthusiasm. Upon seeing this, Xian licked her lips silently. The girl with the ponytail called a coach and two service staff members to arrange the best package for them and then asked them to take Zhang Han and Xian to the yacht area. After they left, the man said excitedly, "Damn it, what an upstart, he just threw that money like trash. I really didn't expect that a man who drove such a cheap car could be so rich. He drives the cheap panda car because he wants to experience life. Are you really that naive? How could such a beautiful woman be won over by a poor guy so easily?" The girl with the ponytail grinned. "Ha ha, yes, what you said makes sense." The man scratched his head and smiled. "Okay," he said, "that the extra money is a tip. The price for the best service is 80,000, so the remaining 120,000 is a tip." The ponytail girl said, "Okay, since you saw that, I'll share it with you. You get 30,000 and I get 90,000, how is that?" The man said with a smile, "Thanks a lot." The girl's eyes lit up. "Sir, the one in the front is yours." The coach pointed to the yacht in the front as he spoke with enthusiasm. When he took a glance over the bay ahead of them, he saw hundreds of yachts quietly parked on the sea. At this pier were some yachts that were rented and ready to depart. The luxurious yacht that Zhang Han had rented had 2 floors in total, 1 cab and 1 guest room. The top deck was for viewing the scenery. There were several comfortable reclining chairs where they could bathe under the sun. If they felt that the sunshine was too strong, they could use the visor. Yachts were generally loved by rich young men, who liked to take part in various parties and usually played on yachts. Of course, ordinary tourists also liked to enjoy the beautiful scenery on the sea on a luxurious yacht, which could make people feel open-minded. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, so there were already many guests who had gone there to have fun. There were several yacht clubs, so a lot of yachts were in motion on the sea. "Are there swimsuits?" Zhang Han asked while nodding. "Yes, there are 5 men's and 5 women's swimsuits. The styles of the women's swimwear are richer. They are all bikinis of the latest style season," the coach replied. "Let's go up." Although Zhang Han couldn't wait any longer, his tone made people think that he was still very calm. However, Xian, who was familiar with Zhang Han, understood his meaning. Thinking about it made her a little shy. She would get changed in front of him? No way. Xian licked her tips and followed Zhang Han to the yacht. "The room below is the cab. I will be here with the other waiters. I will take you up to see the room first," the coach said. After taking them to the upper room, he took a bracelet from the next cabinet. "This is an induction bracelet," he said. "There is a blue light and a red light on it. When the waiter plans to come up to serve the drinks, the blue light will shine. Sir, if you find this inconvenient, just press the blue light button. We will wait for half an hour. If you need anything, you can press the red light to call us at any time." "Oh, I know." Zhang Han picked up the bracelet and put it on his wrist. "Okay, then I will head down. You can change into your swimwear first. They are all in the closet inside," the coach said before he went out. Then let's get changed first, shall we?" Zhang Han looked at Xian as he spoke. "I won't, you, I haven't said anything yet. How could you be so extravagant?" Xian stretched out her hand and pinched Zhang Han's waist while saying, "You are wasting money. Because I am happy." Zhang Han smiled and reached out with his right hand. He gently touched Xian's cheeks with his index finger and middle finger while saying, "It is just a number. When you are with me, you only need to enjoy life and be my wife." "Who is your wife?" I have not agreed to marry you." Xian twisted her waist as she spoke just like a young girl. Upon seeing her charming yet cute expression, Zhang Han almost couldn't control himself. He laughed and said, "Then let's change into our swimsuits." "Okay, I'll help you. In your dreams, I'll get changed by myself. You get out of here." Xian's pretty face was slightly flushed. She took Zhang Han's hand and pushed him out of the room. Zhang Han waited for more than a minute. "Are you finished? I am coming in." After asking symbolically, Zhang Han opened the door and saw the scene behind it. he instantly gurgled. Chapter 309, Rowing Competition. With eyes wide open, Zhang Han gazed at the scene inside. It was not anything like a hot girl changing her clothes and showing her nice body. At this moment, Xian had already put on the swimsuit. It was a pink bikini. It was very suitable for her. The curves of her body were perfectly shown through the bikini. Such a nice figure made Zhang Han very excited. And Xian wore a thin layer around her waist. It seemed that she was very shy, so she hid her lower body, but with her body partly hidden and partly visible, the temptation was much stronger. In addition, there was Xian's snow-white skin, as well as her pretty little feet. Everything was attracting Zhang Han. His heart even beat a little faster. Of course, Zhang Han wasn't a man that could be easily tempted. It had something to do with last night when he controlled himself a lot. Gorgeous, Zhang Han praised her softly. Aren't you bored of my body? Xian's face was flushed as she said gently, of course not. Zhang Han smiled. He walked over and looked Xian up and down, and then he said, I'll also go get changed. And then, he went to the closet and took out black swimming trunks. He changed his clothes directly in front of Xian. He took off his jacket, t-shirt, pants, underwear. Swish. Xian immediately turned her head. She was too shy to look at that. But then, she felt curious. She blinked her beautiful big eyes and slightly turned her head to his side. She took a peep at him. Zhang Han was standing sideways to her, faintly. Xian seemed to have seen something, and then she quickly turned back. Her face became much rosier. Soon after, Zhang Han put on his swimming trunks directly. He sat beside Xian, putting his hand gently on her shoulder. Hiss. Xian's whole body trembled. She felt that the part where Zhang Han's hand was touching became so hot. But Zhang Han only felt that her skin was so smooth. In this way, Zhang Han's hand went down along Xian's shoulders. He gently touched her slender arm, and going further down, Zhang Han's palm pressed against the slim waist of Xian. Mmm. Xian could not help making a quiet sound and her body softened. Zhang Han used a little force and held Xian in his arms. Holding Xian, Zhang Han looked at the beautiful woman gently. In the beginning, Xian had her head lowered with a flushed face. But after several seconds, she raised her head and looked at Zhang Han, saying coyly, just hold me like this. It was such a beautiful experience that couldn't be described by words. After some time, Zhang Han felt that the bracelet on his wrist had shaken a few times, and then he let go of Xian, whose face was totally red. So annoying. Xian gently bit her lower lip and muttered, ha ha, they are coming up. Zhang Han smiled, longing for more. HMPH. Xian snorted and walked to the closet. She took out their sunglasses, put on one pair, and passed the other one to Zhang Han. I will tie up my hair first, Xian said. Then she took out the toiletries from the bag and put her long hair into a small bun. This hairstyle revealed the slender neck of Xian, making it look longer and prettier. Changing a hairstyle would bring another kind of beauty. Obviously, Xian could have any hairstyle, of course, except for having a bald head. However pretty she was, a bald head would still make her look awkward. After Xian combed her hair, the coach took 2 staff members up and put some iced drinks on the table. Sir, we are setting sail now. We will pass through Xuanhuan Island ahead, where people are preparing to hold a rowing competition. Sir, I wonder if you have any interest in that, the coach said. Okay, Zhang Han replied. They came out just to play today. They would like to play whatever project they had. It was relaxing and casual. With Xian by his side, he felt that this was what a happy life should be like. Okay. After the coach heard his words, he nodded and left with 2 staff members. Let's go and lie down for a while. Zhang Han took 2 bottles of cola from the drinks. Xian nodded. They walked out of the door to the upper side of the deck and lay down on 2 adjacent lounge chairs. They were not under the sun visor. They were just lying there, bathing in the sun and feeling the sea breeze, occasionally taking a sip of cola. No one would believe that you have given birth to a child. You're in good shape. Zhang Han turned his head slightly, looked at the graceful figure of Xian, and then praised her. I'm a little bit fatter than before. I was only 49 kilograms before, Xian replied happily. You were too thin before. You're still a little thin now, but I have to admit you do have a good figure. I used to think that a slim woman with big breasts must have had breast implants. But after seeing you today, I realize that I was wrong, Zhang Han said, with his eyes fixed on the white and plump part of her body that was exposed outside. I didn't get breast implants, and I don't need that, HMPH. Xian snorted and said, they were not so big before, they became like this after I gave birth to Meng Meng. If it were in the past, Xian would definitely have not said such things, let alone talk about the size. Some other sensitive topics would have just embarrassed her. But now, she just said that naturally. He already touched her and kissed her. It seemed that it was natural to talk about that. Zhang Han was lying on his side, staring at Xian. He felt that this kind of life was so beautiful, having a carefree life with Meng Meng and Xian. When the Yuan King fruit developed to the foundation stage and he found his parents, the whole family would be reunited and it would be perfect. When thinking about it, Zhang Han said lightly, how about you stop working, just stay at home with me and Meng Meng? Huh? Xian was stunned. She licked her red lips again and said, I can't. Why not? Zhang Han asked casually. Because I have to prove myself. Being an excellent singer or actress is my dream. I haven't realized it, so I want to try hard, Xian said quietly. Then she glanced at Zhang Han, snorted, and said, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I might have succeeded by now. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed very happily and then said, I will support you. In short, don't have any pressure, I'm here. You can treat this entertainment circle as a game, or treat the world as an amusement park. Poof, I just realized that you can also brag. Xian couldn't help laughing, and then said with some emotion, but I don't blame you. Actually you saved me. If it weren't for you, my life now, it would be terrible. It's just destiny. It means that you belong to me. No one can take you from me. No, I haven't married you yet. But, ahem, we already have a child. PFFT, don't you feel ashamed? When we get married, our child will come to our wedding. This situation seems to be very rare. Hey, no, it's not right. No, number. Who said I'd marry you? HMPH. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed. This made Xian's face flush. She reached out her hand and pinched Zhang Han's waist, saying coyly, you're so annoying. I can be more annoying. Zhang Han smirked. He grabbed Xian's hand and gently pulled her, and then her whole body fell into Zhang Han's arms. These two people were just about to have a good time. Ring. By her side, Xian's cell phone rang at a bad time. All right, I have to answer the phone. Xian squirmed and squeezed out of Zhang Han's arms. She took the phone and saw the call was from Maki. So she picked up the phone, and when she was about to speak, that reserved Xian came back again. She said in a cold voice, Elder System. Then Zhang Han stopped messing around. His head was resting on his hands and he looked at Xian quietly. Why didn't you come to the company today? It's the same whether I go there or not. I have to rest for a few days, Xian replied. It's not like that. It is the crucial period now. You must have a good working attitude, so that I can try to plead for you. Maki said in a dissatisfied tone. Oh. Xian gave her a bland response. Then come over later. I won't. Xian, you can't be so willful now. I'm on my period, not feeling well. I'm asking for a leave. Well. Maki became a little hesitant. She hesitated for 5 seconds and then sighed and said, then I will give you a day off. I will tell Mr. Lee about your matter, though he invited you several times before and you didn't agree. He is not a narrow-minded man. I guess he'll help you. Oh. Okay, have a good rest. I'll hang up. After that, Mei Qi hung up the phone directly. In her office, Li Cheng was sitting on the sofa. The two of them looked at each other and began to chat. It was true that Li Cheng was a prudent and steady man. He wasn't brainless. For a young man like him, who had been in all kinds of businesses for so many years, what he thought was much more complicated than ordinary people. The original arrangement of the process of dealing with Xian would be highly successful if it was used for other people. Unfortunately, his goal was Xian. From the moment he decided to do this, his ending had been doomed because he never expected that the guardian of Xian was such a horrible man. On the other side, on the yacht. After she hung up the phone, Zhang Han asked, "Is it because last time I asked Zhao Feng to bring you back that they started to have your company's top executives make it hard for you?" "Sort of. I guess your company is not so powerful. Even a man like Linji made them scared." "I don't know. By rights, the company's board of directors is still very powerful and they shouldn't be afraid of Linji," Xian replied. "Then some senior leaders must know Linji. How about you resign?" Zhang Han thought about it and was about to say, "I will open an entertainment company for you." But before he could say those words, Xian rolled her eyes and interrupted him. "I will not resign. There will be a way. After the broadcast of my program, I received good response. I'll make use of this time to go to a few programs or make a better album, then I'll be prepared for the comeback. Let's stop talking about this. Here we are, look, so many rowing boats." Zhang Han nodded and looked away. He smiled and said nothing. A good album had been sent to her mailbox. But in the name of Han Yang, when she accidentally found out that he was actually Han Yang, she would be very surprised. Chapter 310, Great to be number one. The yacht arrived at Xilu Island. There were more than 20 and twice as many smaller rowboats. Zhang Han's yacht stopped. There were several yachts on both sides that were not far away. On one of the larger luxury yachts, there were more than a dozen people. At the center was a man with short blonde hair, who was leaning on a reclining chair. A few people orbited around him like planets orbiting a sun. "Hey, bother you, brother you, look, oh my. What a hot chick, what a damn good figure. Oh yeah, she's gorgeous. She's definitely a great beauty." "Ah?" The blonde-haired man, called Brother Yu, turned his head and looked over. When he saw Xian, his eyes widened. He quickly sat up, took off his sunglasses, and stared that way for a moment. Then he said with surprise, "My gosh, she's indeed a beauty." His yacht and Zhang Han's yacht were over 10 meters apart. This distance was nothing for those who had good eyesight. The perfect figure and pretty face of Xian made everyone look at her. The surprise of the blonde-haired man also made the 7 or 8 tall girls around him look over. They were disdainful at first. Most of the girls here were veterans in the modeling world and they were very confident in their faces and figures. But when they fixed their eyes on her, their disdain slowly turned into surprise and jealousy. The beauty on the recliner nearby had a superb figure. The shape of her face, her thin lips, and her small nose, plus the snow-white skin, she was really eye-catching. One man with a flat-top haircut said with a smile, brother you, how is it? That chick is pretty hot, huh? She's gorgeous." Brother you nodded. "Do you need me to go over and ask for her contact information?" said the man with the flat top. "Pa." Brother you looked up and smacked the man's head. He shouted, "Are you blind? Don't you see that she has a boyfriend? But that doesn't mean you can't pursue her." The man scratched his head. "Get lost. I never hook up with married women, no matter how beautiful they are." Brother you frowned. Yes. The man hurriedly said and stopped talking. "Xiao Ma, look at you, you just want to play around, but you'll have to pay for it later. Don't go for women who have boyfriends. You can get her now but someone can also take her away from you later on." The bald man lying there said lazily. Among all the people present, he held the most power except for Brother Yu and he knew more. Brother Yu was named Zheng Cheniu. His family owned a trading company and was worth a lot. The bald man knew that when Zheng Cheniu was 12 years old, His family was not wealthy and his mother was taken away by a rich man from the mainland, which caused a great psychological shadow for him. He had always hated those who broke up other people's families. He liked beautiful girls, but the bottom line was that she had to be single. In the bald man's eyes, it was a good rule. Xuanhuan nodded after hearing those words. He looked at the bald man, saying, "I know that, Brother Wen. She was just so beautiful that I didn't explain myself clearly. I mean, I was about to go over and ask the couple to come and have fun with us." The bald-headed man was called Wang and his temper was kind of like a ruffian's. He knew a lot of people from underground gangs. His family was quite rich and his father was worth more than 2 billion. His family was similar to Zheng Chenyiu's family. Both of them were famous in the circle of rich second-generation sons. The other men present were just some followers. Many of them had a family that ran a small company, but their worth was not more than 100 million. Most of the women present were models from private clubs. There were also 2 playgirls with them. Just call them directly if you want to have fun. Zheng Chenyu grinned. He stood up and walked to the end of the deck, shouting at Zhang Han on the other side, "Hey, gorgeous, handsome, come over and have some fun with us?" On the other side, Zhang Han and Xian were still lying on the reclining chairs. After hearing the voice, the 2 of them turned their heads and looked over there. Naturally, Zhang Han had no interest in playing with them, so he reached out his arm and shook a little, meaning he refused. He said while shaking it, "Look, they can still see how beautiful you are from more than 10 meters away. If it was closer, it would be terrible. Ha ha, I'm the only one who can hug you. Silly." Xian gently glanced at Zhang Han. She also found that after the confession, it seemed that Zhang Han's actions and words were becoming more and more aggressive. If it wasn't for her period, he would. When she thought about this, Xian's pretty face became flushed and she said in her heart, "I won't be conquered by you so quickly, HMPH. On the other side, Zheng Chenyu shook his head after seeing that, but he did not force them. He waved his hand and called the coach by his side, saying, "Bring the Remy Martin for me, as a reward for the champion later." "Okay." The coach nodded and went back to arrange this matter. There were a lot of yachts on the scene and there were more rowing boats. Many people were practicing rowing skills under the coach's teaching and they were ready for a fierce competition later. As for Zhang Han here, the coach also walked up 2 minutes later. "Sir, Mom, the rowing boat is ready. Shall we go now? I'll teach you some skills," the coach said. Zhang Han nodded. He stood up, took Xian's hand, and went down. The rowing boat was a smaller design which could accommodate 4 people. It was also very narrow. It felt like it could overturn at any moment. Zhang Han put a life jacket on Xian and he also put one on himself. Then they went to the rowing boat. "This is the seat. Your feet should pedal this part in the groove. When you row the boat, not only your arms should use force, but also your feet should step on the pedals with force. This will make your body keep balance. Your hands also need to move when you paddle. I will give you a demonstration, like this." The coach demonstrated and taught them. Xian was confused and moved a bit as he spoke, but she found that she couldn't do it. So she looked back at Zhang Han and stuck her tongue out a little. She said in a mischievous tone, "Oh, it's so hard. Ha ha ha." Zhang Han shook his head and laughed. For those things that the coach said, Zhang Han understood all the skills after only hearing them once. It was so easy for him, but Zhang Han couldn't use too much power, or else the paddle would be broken. They just practiced for 2 minutes. Suddenly, a speedboat came and stopped in front of all the rowing boats. One person on it held a big horn and said, "All you friends who want to participate in the competition, attention please. All you friends who want to participate in the competition, attention please. The rowing competition will begin in 10 minutes. This competition has a reward. If 2 contestants, 1 male and 1 female, win first place, they will get the reward of a bottle of Remy Martin, worth 50,000 yuan, which was given by Mr. Zheng Chenyu on the number 1 yacht on the left. As he said that, many people on the speedboats and the tourists on the yachts all looked at Zheng Chenyiu's yacht and cheered. Zheng Chenyiu enjoyed the feeling of being the center of the world. He stood on the yacht and waved to the people around him. Well, the double rowing competition will begin in 10 minutes. My position is the starting point. You will go to the opposite coast and then come back. The total distance is about 1,300 meters. The first one to come back here will be the winner. Everyone, go prepare. Gather here in 10 minutes. The coach on the speedboat finished his words and then just watched the time, waiting quietly. On the other side, on Zheng Chenyiu's yacht, he clapped his hands and said, "Let's go down and prepare." He waved his hand to a girl and the two of them cooperated. Everyone here had done this before and were familiar with this game. They did not need a coach. Zheng Chenyiu got on the rowing boat and directly paddled over to Zhang Han's boat. The bald man, Xuanhuan, and a model were on another rowing boat. He saw Zheng Chenyiu's movements and followed him to join them. When they were close, Zheng Chenyiu saw Zhan more closely and felt that she was even more attractive. He looked Zhang Han up and down and then said with a smile, "Hey, handsome, gorgeous, the competition is about to begin, good luck." Zhan turned to look at him and did not say anything. Zhang Han smiled and shook his head. "Are you tourists all locals?" Zheng Chenyiu asked. "We're locals, I think," Zhang Han replied calmly. Seeing Zhang Han's response, Zheng Chenyiu rolled his eyes. He had seen all kinds of people traveling here, various kinds of characters. Some were lively, some were shy, and some were open-minded, but this man in front of him was being so calm and reserved that Zheng Chenyiu felt a little surprised. The temperament of a person indirectly indicated his status, which revealed itself in their words and deeds. Although some people liked to pretend, Zheng Chenyiu felt that this reserved temperament could not be faked. "I'm afraid these people have some influence." Zheng Chenyiu kept guessing and he felt that the man here was not an ordinary person, but he did not know what exactly his status was, so he would just regard him as a tourist who was about to participate in the rowing competition. That was enough. "I often go rowing here, the sea is still calm, it is not bad for newbies like you. Later on, I will show you how fast I am," Zheng Chenyiu said with confidence. He often plays here and always wins first place, so it's highly possible that the Remy Martin he just contributed will end up in his anyways. Xuanhuan, on his other side, smiled and said, "Oh, let's wait and see, your Remy Martin will be mine." Zhang Han smiled lightly. "Ha ha." Zhan couldn't help laughing. She turned her head and looked at Zhang Han, whispering, "Don't embarrass yourself later." "I won't," Zhang Han replied with a chuckle. At ordinary times, Zhang Han wouldn't give a damn about even 10 bottles of Remy Martin, but since he came out to have fun with Zhan, Zhang Han became more relaxed. Even though Zheng Chenyiu came over to talk with him, he'd still responded with a smile. The thing that mattered was making Zhan happy. As for everyone else, Zhang Han didn't care about them at all. But it was good that Zheng Chenyiu didn't have any improper thoughts and he wasn't a brainless rich man at all. If they really met a stupid man today, even if they beat him, his and Zhan's happy mood would be ruined. However, after hearing Zhang Han's words, both Zheng Chenyiu and Xuanhuan were shocked. "Oh, you're so confident, then I will be more serious later." After saying that, Zheng Chenyiu began to move his arms and warm up. On the other side, Xuanhuan was also warming up, while Zhang Han was still sitting here and chatting with Zhan. "All rowing boats, attention please, the competition will begin in a minute," the coach on the speedboat ahead said. After he finished speaking, a total of 8 speedboats came over on both sides, prepared for emergencies. "Then let's prepare," Zhang Han said as he stretched out his hands and gently pressed on Zhan's slender arms. "You just follow the rhythm and paddle slowly, don't use too much force, you're so delicate, and you don't usually exercise this much. The sudden strenuous exercise will make your muscles very sore in the following days. Come on, I often do sports, running, yoga, dancing, I just I've just become lazy with you recently, Xian said a little stubbornly, and I am not a little girl. She was already a mother of a 4-year-old, she was not a little girl anymore. Zhang Han moved forward and whispered in the ear of Xian, but in my eyes, you're always a little girl, you're my honey, you're the apple of my eye. After that, he also continued to kiss Xian's cheeks. Yan's blush was immediately obvious. You're so annoying, so many people are here. Xian turned her head and rolled her eyes. At this time, the coach on the yacht ahead started the countdown. The last 15 seconds, everyone prepares. 10, 9, 8. After he said that, nearly 50 rowing boats were ready to go, and everyone's hands were on the paddles. In the final stage of the countdown, Zheng Chenyu glanced at Zhang Han and said loudly, I'll show you, I'll be as fast as flying. Zhang Han smiled lightly and did not answer. 3, 2, 1, start. The moment he finished those words, the fierce competition began. There was chanting all around, 1 2, 1 2, Zheng Chenyu, Huang Wen, and the other 5 or 6 people took the lead. They were all very fast, it could be seen that these people were veterans, while Xian was here. 1 2, 1 2, oh. Xian paddled a few times, only to find that she only moved a little. She felt it strange and turned her head to see Zhang Han. Then she said unhappily, Hey, it's started, why don't you move? Let them go 200 meters first. Zhang Han smiled and said. There were a lot of inexperienced people among the nearly 50 contestants and they went awry after a while. Some ran into others and some went on different paths. Seeing this, Zhang Han planned to wait for a few seconds and start after them. Xian didn't know this. After hearing his words, she urged him, hurry, or we won't be able to catch up. All right, start. Zhang Han's arms began to move. Xian was shouting the slogan in front and the sound was very pleasant. Zhang Han followed Xian's rhythm in the back, paddling neatly. It seemed that it was not fast, but every time he paddled, the rowing boat moved forward a few meters, and they were shortening the distance from the first row of yachts of Zheng Chenyu and the others in front. Seeing this, Xian became more excited and her voice got even louder. 1 2, come on. 1 2, come on. This was the excitement from competing. After Zhang Han saw this, his hands accelerated. Xian paddled once, and he paddled twice. In this way, their speed was getting faster and faster. In less than a minute, their rowing boat had surpassed the first row, which had been working so hard, and they had become number 1. However, in the eyes of others, Xian was paddling so lightly that her paddles were seldom in the water, she didn't even notice it herself. But Zhang Han's paddles in the back, they were moving extremely fast. Damn it, what's wrong with him? Did he take a stimulant? Zheng Chenyu shouted as he paddled. They're so fast. Your Remy Martin will be lost. Huang Wen laughed and worked harder. The figure of Zhang Han in the front was getting farther and farther away. The people behind him could only look at his back, unable to catch up with him. Even when turning, this guy still did not slow down. He pressed a paddle into their water and moved the other paddle more rapidly. Whoosh! The rowing boat directly made a gorgeous turn. This made Xian scream again and again. Looking back, the rowing boats that were in the first row just now had only finished 2/3 of the total distance. Wow, we are so fast, we'll be number 1, quickly, hurry up, 1, 2, come on. Xian screamed excitedly and paddled back. During this period, Zhang Han deliberately lowered the speed and paddled slowly. The eyes of Zheng Chenyu, Huang Wen, and the others behind him lit up. Ha ha ha, he's exhausted, hurry up, chase him. Zheng Chenyu shouted and then worked hard to chase after him. Zhang Han paddled slowly for a while and let them catch up. Oh no, we've been caught up, Xian shouted again. So Zhang Han increased his speed and surpassed them, and then he slowed down again. No, we are caught up again, hurry up, we must be number 1, they're catching up, oh no. Xian was like a happy child and was enjoying this game. She looked back at others and screamed from time to time. This kind of back and forth competition was the most stressful and it just made people excited. And Zhang Han, who was sitting behind Xian, softly looked at her. He controlled the rhythm of the scene and made her happy and excited. Time was passing by. The most exciting time was coming up. In the last 50 meters, only 5 rowing boats were on the forefront. Among them were Zheng Chenyu and Huang Wen, who had been trying their best to play this game today. There were 50 meters to the destination and the 5 rowing boats were in a horizontal line. Now at 40 meters, Zheng Chenyu and Huang Wen took the lead and were the fastest. Ha ha ha, I'll be number 1. Zheng Chenyu shouted while laughing. Don't be so confident, I'll beat you this time. Huang Wen widened his eyes and exerted more force. His bald head was bright and shiny, reflecting a fierce light. He used his utmost strength and held his breath. His face became totally red and then he shouted his slogan, 1 2, pa, pa. Suddenly, a loud muffled sound came from his ass. It seemed that the long deep breath that he held just now came out from his ass. The tall woman in front of him widened her eyes and turned to look at him. This fart was so loud. Its power was definitely greater than his voice. After he farted, Huang Wen's expression became a bit stiff and he was deflated, and then he stopped moving. Damn it, how could I just fart like that? He gave up the competition and now there were 3 other rowing boats. Zhang Han was here. Xian saw that Zheng Chenyu was taking the lead, so she shouted anxiously, "Oh no, he is coming, let's hurry up." She was also moving the paddles with great force while speaking, but it seemed that she did not need to move and Zhang Han would get everything done. With the last 10 meters left to the destination, Zheng Chenyu thought that he had already won. Plop, 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 plop. Suddenly, a very dense clatter of water came from his side. The next moment, Zhang Han's rowing boat passed him like it was flying. What? How can he be so fast? Zheng Chenyu was shocked. It was the first time that he had seen such a situation. During those few seconds when he was shocked, they had crossed the finishing line of the yacht in the front. After it stopped, Zhang Han and Xian stood up. Xian was thrilled. She was jumping on the rowing boat, shouting, "Yeah, we won, we are number 1, we won. Ha ha ha." Zhang Han hugged Xian and spun in a circle. He laughed and said, "We won." Xian was delighted to win and she even happier to win through her cooperation with Zhang Han as a couple. And Zhang Han, he was happy because Xian was happy. If he was alone, he would definitely not play this kind of small game, but with Xian, he suddenly felt that this small game was quite interesting. This was the joy that Xian brought to Zhang Han, which was also the charm of love. When they were celebrating the joy of victory, Zheng Chenyu came up close to them in the rowing boat. It's true that a man can't be judged by his appearance. Great. Hey buddy, you don't look so strong, but you do have great power. Zheng Chenyu shook his head and sighed, and then shouted to the coach not far away, "Bring the wine here." Soon after, the coach came over to them in the speedboat and handed the bottle of Remy Martin, which was worth 50,000 yuan, to Zhang Han. "Thank you for your wine," Xian said, smiling to Zheng Chenyu. This woman here was so beautiful. Now hearing her voice, Zheng Chenyu found was charmed by her voice as well. After Xian said those words, Zheng Chenyu felt honored, so he waved his hand and said, "You win, so you deserve this." Ha ha ha. Zhang Han took the wine and waved it in front of Zheng Chenyu, then he paddled the rowing boat to his yacht. "There are only 2 of you, would you like to have fun with us?" After Zhang Han got more than 10 meters away, Zheng Chenyu asked again. Zhang Han stretched out his left arm and waved, then he steered back to his yacht. When he approached the yacht, the coach gave Zhang Han a thumbs up. "You're wonderful, sir, your rowing skill is perfect, I admire you." "Ha ha, of course he's wonderful." Xian looked very proud as she replied. "The inflatable trampoline is also ready, sir, madam, are you going to play now?" the coach asked. Okay. Zhang Han nodded. Xian was still very excited, so they should just continue to have fun. When they were tired, they would go back to the yacht to lie in the sun. The two of them went to the trampoline, which was floating on the water. Xian began to jump on it happily. Zhang Han was also enjoying the fun. He sometimes held Xian's hand and sometimes hugged her. They were jumping on it together. It was such a childish game, but the two of them were playing so happily. This attracted the attention of Zheng Chenyu and the others who had returned to the yacht. They are so happy, it looks like it is very fun. Wang Wen touched his bald head. When he was having fun, it was nothing special, but looking at others now, he remembered a song, "We Are Not the Same." Do I also need to find a girlfriend now? He was very confused about this. If he had a girlfriend, would they be as happy as them? How about we have fun for a while? Zheng Chenyu asked with hesitation. Okay, come on. Okay, coach, come over, bring a trampoline here.